Emperor of the Desert. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 576, Desolate vs. Jiao Kangda. It felt like a demon or a dragon man, but it was not any kind of monster he was familiar with, and the Supremes had never mentioned it. Demiurge was making judgments in his mind. How strong is it? I don't know. Fighting method? I don't know. Weakness? I don't know. Maybe it's a sacred attribute. Without detailed information, Demiurge planned countermeasures for the enemy in front of him. Before the battle begins, you must make as many countermeasures as possible. All the guardians and lordanes were divided and surrounded. Whether it was the portal, high-level teleportation or other teleportation skills, Demiurge had confirmed this. Those huge walls made of tree roots played an isolation effect, even the isolation where the teleportation skills could not be effective. However, the summoning skills could be effective. Allowed to enter, not allowed to leave? Demiurge raised his glasses. It was just like a coliseum. Really, are we being used as props for entertainment? Demiurge said casually, taking off his glasses, revealing a pair of crystal eyes that looked like insect compound eyes. Does Lord Ulbert possess such power? He had never heard of it. However, he seemed to have seen these beasts in the southern theocracy of Slain. Because of the return of the 6 great gods, he sent spies to investigate. The gods of earth, fire, light, water, wind, and darkness. The gods corresponding to these 6 great gods have returned. The one who stopped Shoutir was the god of wind. The one who stopped Oro was the god of water. The one who stopped Mare should be the monster in the northern forest. And Demiurge glanced to the other side. A stone giant was wreaking havoc on the earth. The huge body of more than 30 meters, the strongest golem made of rocks and ores, in the game. It was the super rare ores that attracted countless players to snatch. Although it was not created by the 4 Taiwan Supreme Masters of the Ancient Guild, its strength is the strongest in Nazarick. Jiao Kangda is Nazarick's built-in protection mechanism. Even Shoutir could not defeat this giant golem, Jiao Kangda, which could be called a siege golem. At this moment, this huge stone giant was swinging its giant fist and smashing the tree wall. It received the order to destroy obstacles and protect Hain-sama, and was executing the order meticulously. But at this moment, on the ground, on the cracked earth full of holes, a dark wave emerged. A dark wave. It was not water, but sand. The black quicksand that surged like a wave in a tsunami. The next moment, a humanoid creature with an eagle head and a human body, wearing black armor, appeared in the dark wave. The pair of sharp feet poked into the quicksand as if grabbing a hard object. Desolation. The demon god with an eagle head and a human body looked up at the tall stone statue and introduced himself. However, the stone giant did not pay any attention to him and continued to swing his fists and smash the tree wall. However, the hard tree wall, which was covered with a thin layer of evil light, still stood firm. Can't communicate? What a boring opponent. Huang Wu shook his head. But at this moment, a large shadow came over. Fist. It was Jiao Kangda's fist. Jiao Kangda's target of attack changed from the tree wall to Huang Wu. Boom! Exclamation mark with a loud bang. Huang Wu was smashed directly into the ground. Without a doubt, a crushing victory. Sebastian, who did not start the battle, flapped his wings, floated in the air, and watched Jiao Kangda's actions. In front of Jiao Kangda, all enemies are insignificant. Sebastian had not seen Jiao Kangda's destructive power with his own eyes, but from the mouths of the Supremes, Sebastian knew how powerful Jiao Kangda was. Facing such a heavy blow, even he could not resist. Its opponent was dead. Sebastian pulled his white gloves and made a judgment in his heart. But at this moment, Jiao Kangda's position once again made a loud noise. Boom! Exclamation mark. The dark quicksand gathered, and a huge dark blue hand tore through the surface of the earth and stretched out from the earth, accompanied by a low sigh filled with evil. It seemed as if the whole earth was shaking. The next moment, with this giant hand as the center, the surrounding land dried up and shattered at a very fast speed, turning into gravel. Countless quicksand splashed up, The storm surged, and the quicksand gathered on the huge arm. It kept getting bigger and bigger. Boom! Another huge arm stretched out and slammed on the ground. The giant palm that fell down smashed the spreading roots into pieces. Those demons that were not sacrificed by Minali and were divided into this battlefield by prosperity were also turned into mummies at the moment they were wrapped by the giant palm. Then, even the corpses were completely broken up and turned into gravel, which was absorbed by the owner of the giant hand. With the roar, the head and body of the terrifying demon god also appeared on the earth. The whole body is made of black quicksand, and the sharp edged inverted triangle body looks extremely strong. When he completely appeared on the ground, his height of nearly 100 meters instantly caught everyone's attention. Demiurge Sebastian, who had not yet started the battle, naturally needless to say, Mare, who was sitting on the back of the dragon and flying into the sky to avoid the attack of the prosperous Treebeard, also noticed it. Zhao Kangda's huge body of 30 meters was insignificant in front of the stark demon god Desolation. Qin Ren crossed his legs and took a cup of drink from the mirror image Nito beside him. He looked like a spectator, watching the desolation rising from the ground. Go, Obelisk's souls are black, Qin Ren muttered in his heart with interest. One of the materials for demon god Desolation is Obelisk's giant god soldier exchanged from the system. In the normal state, Qin Ren was pinched into the shape of a yellow chicken, and the giant posture was naturally the giant god soldier. Although Zhao Kangda looks quite exaggerated and powerful, he is just a small guy in front of Huang Wu. It's a pity. According to the general routine, there should be a few maids, extras, and low-level NPCs from Nazarick who are on the sidelines to praise Zhao Kangda for being so strong and powerful, and then belittle Huang Wu. Qin Ren took a sip of the drink and the common routine of pretending to be awesome and slapping him in the face emerged in his mind. Then Huang Wu transformed into a giant god soldier, knocked down Zhao Kangda, and slapped him in the face. It feels pretty good. After taking a few more sips, Qin Ren looked at the dark liquid in the cup that had already bottomed out and burped. Speaking of which, this Jormungandr poison tastes pretty good. I wonder if I can find some more. Chapter 577 Causitus vs. Frozen Earth. If it were in the past, he certainly would not drink this kind of thing, even if he had mercury and purification. After all, mercury purification is ineffective against the poison of Alchemist, Snake Girl, Timo, and Rat. Mercury can remove all negative states, and even the version that can remove the mark of Zed's ultimate move has long been ancient, not to mention that he is completely immune to various poisons. As long as it meets the definition of poison, it cannot cause harm to him and is ineffective against him, especially the poison in the category of snake venom. For him, it has become a delicacy. The source is the power of Isis, the goddess of the world of God's lair. However, speaking of it, snake venom is a toxic protein secreted from the venom glands of snakes. If the toxicity is ignored, it is not much different from blood with a large amount of blood protein. No, snake venom is more like jelly. Qin Ren glanced at the black substance at the bottom of the cup. If you insist, it should be semi-coagulated blood? Qin Ren thought. While he was thinking, the battle on the other side was also going on. The alien giant insect emitting cold air was in a bitter battle. This nearly 3-meter-tall, huge creature that looks like an insect walking on 2 legs is being suppressed. On the body that looks like a fusion of a mantis and an ant, 4 arms extend from the side. One hand holds a silver halberd, and the remaining 2 hands hold a terrible mace that emits black light, and a crooked broadsword that looks like it can't be sheathed. Causitus raised the 3 weapons high, closed them and overlapped them, resisting the attack. The attacker is also an inhuman being, taller than Causitus, who is undoubtedly huge even though he is less than 3 meters tall. Its appearance is roughly like a gray-blue human-like giant wolf with a nice silver crown on its head. Although it looks like a werewolf, there are many differences. The face full of death and coldness has only one big single eye, and the long, easily bitten wolf mouth extends 2 huge teeth like ivory. Although it looked like a giant elephant or wild boar, the thick arms and thighs with muscle outlines and the sharp claws extending from the toes were not the characteristics of elephants or pigs. At this moment, the giant beast's thick arms were tense, and its claws grasped a scepter full of death and emitting a terrifying chill. This tool symbolizing royal power was not made of gold or silver, nor was it decorated with gems. The main body of the scepter was the skeleton of an unrecognizable creature. The top of the scepter was shaped like a skull, the skull of a roaring beast. From the sharp teeth and fangs, a continuous and deadly breath was gushing towards Cositus. For a moment, Cositus seemed to see Helheim and Niflheim, the two leaves of Yggdrasil, the land of eternal night, the land of the dead Helheim, and the land of the dead covered with ice and snow and filled with cold fog, the land of the fog Niflheim, which was also involved in death. Nazarick before the transfer was located in the great wetlands of Helheim. Although Cositus himself was born in Nazarick, Master Taktogoken Rai set his bloodline to be from Niflheim. Among his professions, there is a knight of Niflheim, and now, could it be that the enemy came from Niflheim? Such thoughts emerged in Cositus' mind. However, he was not afraid of such an attack. Whoosh! His long tail swayed slightly, and the sharp spikes like icicles all over his body lit up slightly, and the terrifying cold air poured out from his ant mantis-like mouthparts. The light blue exoskeleton, which was as hard as boring armor, also emerged under the faint light of the icicles, emitting a dazzling light like diamond dust. The shoulders and back that bulged like an iceberg moved slightly, and the muscles in the soles of the feet and the waist and abdomen exerted force, and the four huge arms pushed forward together. Ding! Exclamation mark with the sound of metal colliding. The terrifying cold air collided and exploded, pushing Cositus and Tundra away. The guardian of the fifth floor of the great underground tomb of Nazarick, Ice Ruler Cositus, the demon god created by the Qin people, the ruler of the netherworld with the city of winter as its core, the Hades tundra. These are the two sides of the battle. In this arena formed by the prosperous tree roots, two humanoid giants, both exuding terrifying coldness, collided with terrifying brute force. Frost hail, from Tundra's body. The power that continued to spread outward like a halo completely froze the area, and the entangled, huge wall of tree roots was also directly frozen. Tundra's skill turned an area into a frost hail, giving the targets in the area continuous damage, deceleration, and slowing effects, while also gaining aura skills for himself. As the ruler of the ice, Cositus, who lived on the fifth floor of Nazarick and lived in an extremely cold place, was very little affected. However, Cositus, who was good at various ice attribute skills and assisted himself in attacking by slowing down the enemy, also knew that his various skills would not be effective against the enemy in front of him. The disadvantage was himself, not the opponent. Cositus could feel that the power flowing out of the opponent, which froze the entire area, was not only ice attribute, but also the death attribute power of the undead. Just like Ain't Smomunga, he could resist various ice attribute skills, but he did not have outstanding resistance to the death attribute. In this case, the disadvantage was himself. He knocked the halberd in his hand to the ground, and a layer of frost formed on the ground that was already covered with ice and snow. Cositus's expressionless insect face showed fighting spirit. Akalanatha, Izir Qin. As the skills were used, a layer of sacred light appeared around Cositus, and the hard exoskeleton seemed to be coated with a layer of gold foil. Cositus is a warrior. When dealing with the enemy in front of him, most of the skills of the Knight of Niflheim class cannot be used. The skills of the Sword Saint class and the skills of the Azura class can be used. However, there is no doubt that against this enemy in front of him who is full of evil and even surpasses Demiurge, the Azura class, whose some skills have sacred attributes, is more useful. Without any hesitation, after using this skill that can greatly increase defense and resistance to evil attributes, allowing his attacks to have sacred attributes, Cositus used the Azura class skill again. 3 paths severed. Kurkara sword. P.S. Except for Aints and Shoutir, there is really no information on the skills of other guardians. Cositus found these two skills from the radio drama. The effect of Akalavadra was also made up by me, and it didn't say what the effect is at all. Chapter 578. The Walls of Jericho. Yggdrasil. Aintz's eyes were fixed on the monster with a strange appearance. A huge creature with an unusually abrupt appearance, like a puppet. A giant, a tree man, a demon, none of them. The next moment, Those things attacked his subordinates. It was a group of Death Knights and a group of dead mages. In the center of the Death Knights, there was an undead wearing a very luxurious purple robe and a shining crown that did not match it. There was an NPC created by Aints, the Crypt Lord, an undead of about level 70. When the Floor Guardians went into battle, the undead created by Aints as a replacement for Victim also walked out of Nazarick. Aints did not have time to command the undead, and Demiurge was also separated. In this case, the Crypt Lord became the general commander of these undead. The Crypt Lord, who has commander-type skills, can also strengthen the undead under his control. The enemy had no doubt seen this, so they launched an attack on the King of the Underground Temple. But Aints couldn't just watch the King of the Underground Temple die. Losing combat power before finding a breakthrough would be the worst situation. At this moment, the abdomens of those puppet-like monsters opened up, revealing their interior. There was nothing that could be called an organ inside their bodies, just a large cavity. However, inside that large cavity, there were densely packed skeletons like thorns. Iron Maiden. An idea suddenly emerged in Aints' mind. Looking at the creature that looked like the Iron Maiden, Aints didn't have any time to spare. The huge vortex that was spinning in the sky, like a black hole, was the most difficult enemy. Cherubim Gatekeeper. Looking at the enemy attacking the King of the Underground Temple, Aints activated the summoning magic without hesitation. With the brilliance of the magic, 3 angels appeared around with pillars of light. It was a sacred creature with a lion's head, with a pair of open wings and a pair of wings covering its body, totaling 4 wings. It was wearing glittering armor, holding a shield with eye patterns and a spear with a flame tip. The Gatekeeper Cherubim, a sacred creature of level 80. Because he didn't have much knowledge about mythology, although he knew that the prototypes of most angels were not the beautiful humanoids in various modern works, he didn't know their specific detailed appearance. Aints didn't understand why they were called gatekeepers, but as a veteran player, Aints understood their abilities and characteristics as monsters. The Gatekeeper Cherubim was quite good as a meat shield, and with its good detection ability, it was very suitable as a guard. Up to now, Aints was also very clear that against these enemies, most of which were evil, the undead were not an excellent restraining attribute. At most they only had the trait of being difficult to deal with. Although his evil value was very high, he would not get any bonus when summoning angels of holy attributes, but he would not be punished either. Kill those things. Yes, Lord Summoner. After the 3 angels made a sound that quickly suppressed Aints' resentment, they flapped their wings and attacked the monsters that looked like Iron Maidens. This was not an order based on strategy or any other idea, but because he had no time to respond. After giving the order, Aints immediately used Upper Teleport. Almost at the moment when his figure disappeared from the spot, a dark beam of light fell from above and directly destroyed the last Gatekeeper Cherubim, just like a balloon bursting, just like a pencil drawing being erased by an eraser. The last of the 3 Gatekeeper Cherubim had half of its body erased by the black light. The broken body fell downwards, and in less than half a second it was completely corroded by the black color that had infected its body, and then it turned into black ash and disintegrated in the sky. Lord Aints. Albedo, who was fully armed and covered in dark armor, couldn't help but scream when she saw Aints being attacked. The black rings on her waist flapped, and Albedo, holding a black kite shield, tried to move closer to Aints. However, at this moment, the huge roots on the tall tree wall moved again, accompanied by a strong tremor, and huge tree roots came from all directions, slapping down in an orderly and powerful manner, slapping towards Albedo. Damn it! Facing the attack, Albedo could not help but defend. If she tried to break through, she would definitely be injured. After being injured, her combat power would decrease, and it would be hard to say whether she could continue to break through or even survive. Even if she wanted to protect Aints and move quickly, Albedo could only choose to defend. Aegis. Shield of Aegis, as she shouted, an illusory shield with a female face relief on the front appeared in front of her, blocking the roots of the trees. And on the illusory shield, the long hair around the female head suddenly swayed, like a venomous snake, and the empty pupils on the female relief face, a gray light emerged. Kaka, the huge tree root that was slapping towards her, from the tip, solidified visibly and turned into rock. The Aegis shield, also known as the Aegis, was used by the demigod hero Perseus to block Medusa's petrified gaze and cut off Medusa's head. This skill can defend against various attacks and block debuff effects. At the same time, it can temporarily petrify the target. Gritting her teeth, Albedo flapped the wings behind her waist, and was about to break through and attack when the tree roots were petrified. But although some of the tree roots were petrified, these tree roots were only a small part. Like a wave, thick tree whiskers surged from behind the petrified tree whiskers and slapped towards Albedo in the same trajectory, and a palpitation came, making Albedo's hair stand on end. It was as if a pair of malicious eyes were watching her. Walls of Jericho. The widely circulated story in the Bible, the holy city of Jordan, Jericho, the prototype, one of the white-walled city Camelot in King Arthur's legend. The skill named after the indestructible walls of the holy city. In an instant, a huge, illusory, and simple wall appeared in front of Albedo. Boom! With a loud rumble, 10 pitch-black giant snakes crushed the petrified roots and crashed into the illusory wall. P.S. I'm not sure whether Jericho is the prototype of Camelot, but you all know the relationship between King Arthur's legend and Christianity. A few hundred years after Christianity was introduced to Britain, it was a product of Celtic mythology, and the story of the fall of the city of Jericho that never falls is a classic in the Bible. Logically, I think it should be Chapter 579, Albedo's Hard Fight. The End, or the Name at the Beginning. 32. The second god he accidentally created, and the first demon god to appear in the Yellow Sand world, was also the opportunity for him to realize the truth of the Yellow Sand world. The true body formed by absorbing the souls of many demon gods, the 10-headed giant snake, is her true body. And she is the opponent arranged by the Qin people for Albedo. Aiming at Albedo's attack, it was just a simple, revealing the true body, and the snake head of 32, which was transformed into the posture of a 10-headed giant snake. 10 completely different snake heads, showing the characteristics of the demon gods absorbed and fused by her, opened, revealing the fangs of venomous snakes or the rows of teeth without extra fangs of non-venomous snakes, and bit towards the Jericho wall created by Albedo. The huge phantom like a city wall, the solid Jericho wall, was pierced by the attacking fangs. Like ink dripping into water, the dark cracks quickly spread on the phantom wall. Kakaka, boom. After a brief crisp sound, the sound of the wall of Jericho collapsing was heard. It was as if the concept of shattering was injected into the wall of Jericho. The wall of Jericho collapsed. Amidst the loud rumbling sound, the phantom-like wall completely collapsed and dissipated, becoming an illusion in the air. After the dark snake head shattered the wall of Jericho, it attacked the Aegis shield, without any resistance. The Aegis shield, which had been hit hard by the roots of prosperity, could not withstand 32's attack at all. With ease, the Medusa relief that was embedded on the shield like a living thing screamed and shattered, breaking apart along with the shield. Damn it! Even Albedo did not expect that her wall of Jericho would be shattered so easily. The giant axe in her right hand, which was emitting green light, and the black kite shield in her left hand moved together when the snake head attacked, blocking her body. Boom! The pitch-black snake heads collided head-on with her black kite shield and giant axe, and the overwhelming force immediately surged into her body, knocking her into the ground. Even though the view became pitch-black because of the huge tree roots above, Albedo, as a succubus, had the skill of dark vision, so she could clearly see the teasing on the corners of the mouths of the 10 pitch-black giant snake heads. It was like teasing prey. This thought emerged in Albedo's mind, until the last moment when she was smashed into the ground. Boom! The impact of her body colliding with the ground and the feeling of losing her life brought Albedo back to her senses. However, now was not the time to tangle with the enemy. She needed to rush to the side of Lord Aints. Under the huge impact force, she smashed straight into the ground. Albedo was dozens of meters deep underground, and she was still falling straight down under the residual force of the impact. This thought emerged in her mind. Escape directly from the underground and from this cage. All around, Even the sky was covered and entangled by the huge roots. This place had become a cage. Albedo did not use healing skills to instantly raise her lifeline back to 100% after being shot down by 20%. The first skill she activated was greater teleportation. Before, when she discovered the abnormality and was separated from Sebastian and Demiurge by the huge tree wall, she tried to use the teleportation skill, but at that time, she was interrupted by the action of the tree roots. But now, this might be the best time for her to act? However, after her MP was consumed and the scene in front of her changed, she was shocked to find that her body appeared at the edge of the wall of tree roots. Can't teleport out from here. This judgment emerged in Albedo's mind. Skills to prevent teleportation? This situation is certainly not the first time she has seen it. Nezaric has set up such means. Each class has set up restrictions on teleportation skills according to their authority. The Guardian General and Guardians of each class have the highest teleportation authority except for the Supreme. When using teleportation skills to cross classes, there will be no restrictions, except for the treasure hall and the classes where teleportation is prohibited. Props such as the mountain and river map can also achieve the effect of curbing teleportation. However, these situations are without exception to form a huge space, isolating teleportation based on the space itself. In the outside world, without a lot of basic settings, if you want to isolate teleportation in a short time, you can only use skills such as delay teleportation to cover a small area. The effect of delayed teleportation is a trap, covering an area. If the landing point of the teleportation skill is in this area, it will produce a sense of hysteresis, causing the reaction to be slow and difficult to resist the attack. However, as long as the teleportation landing point is not in the area set by the delayed teleportation, it will not be affected. Even if the teleportation skill is used in the delayed teleportation coverage area. However, now there is no doubt that this area has become a place like the Nezaric class and the different space in the mountain and river map. Before the wall was broken or a hole in the wall was found, the teleportation skill could not reach outside this area. How is this possible? It would take a long time to complete, right? This is outside of Nezaric, and it has always been under Nezaric's surveillance. How is it possible to set up such an anti-teleportation mechanism in this area without any sound? Albedo did not think that this space restriction was something that could be completed immediately. After all, such a thing would at least require super-level magic, but super-level magic requires a long time to chant and activate. What happened? Albedo's thoughts suddenly became confused. At this moment, the attack came again. Not from the front where Albedo held her shield and axe tightly to resist, nor from behind or on both sides where she was alert, nor from the ground or the sky, but from another world. Shadow in the mirror. Unreal. Like a shadow. From the mirror world, a snake head covered with smooth scales like a mirror surface bit towards Albedo's legs. It was the legs, not the vital parts. The purpose seemed not to kill her, but to tear off her beautiful legs covered in black armor. She did not have divine attributes or light attributes, so she could not see the attack coming. It was only the sense of crisis that Albedo felt when her life was fading that made her aware of the danger. Life crisis. Block the attack? No, she didn't know which direction. Albedo's mind was filled with defensive skills such as Ajax's protection. In the end, the skill she used was Styx. Water of Styx. Styx was one of the several rivers of the underworld in Greek mythology. In mythology, Achilles soaked in the river of the underworld and gained immortality. In Drizzle, this skill can give the user a short and powerful resistance, and can avoid death when the blood volume is too low. When the dead breath-like liquid water enveloped the body, the black giant snake bit Albedo's mirror image in the mirror world. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 580, Purgatory Demiurge. Really tough, in every sense. Qin Ren groaned after taking a look at the battle between 32 and Albedo. Among all the NPCs in Nezaric, The most resistant one is undoubtedly Albedo, the super tank. That plumpness is not fake at all. Even 32's attack can't kill the fragile skin in 1 second. Among the 9 demons he created, if we rank them in terms of destructive power and lethality, the first tier is undoubtedly the 3 of Sky Punishment, Purgatory, and Funeral. It goes without saying that Sky Punishment uses lightning as a means of attack, and Purgatory can use the flames of the eclipse to erode all light and heat. Funeral, which does not extend frost like frozen soil and has no legion root, is completely specialized in death. In terms of destructive power and lethality, it is still quite powerful. Although it has limitations, it is undoubtedly a member of the first tier. The third is Sky Curtain and Prosperity. The strength of Sky Curtain is its flexibility and ability to reorganize infinitely. As long as it does not encounter a nemesis, it is basically invincible. Needless to say, although there is a reverse form of specialized attacks, the strong part is that it can resist, heal, and suck blood, which is basically the tank route. The first and third have been mentioned, so the second one is naturally the remaining 32 and the 4 of Natural Disasters, Desolation, and Frozen Earth. Frozen Earth is not weak. Under the right circumstances, it is stronger than Burial Sacrifice and can squeeze behind Purgatory. But there are only very few cases. The route taken by Frozen Earth is mainly based on Legion battles and continuous battles, and there is no particularly strong burst. Desolation is also very strong. Under normal circumstances, it is stronger than Frozen Earth. It turns the land of the entire city into its home field. It can exert endless destructive power without being killed. The giant god soldier posture can let it hammer down all enemies who fight by brute force. But the problem is that it lacks the powerful destructive power of a one-hit kill. It is also a problem that it lacks combat effectiveness in places where there is no sand and soil, such as the ocean. As for the natural disaster, storm and thunder are naturally flexible. In terms of destructive power, although they have the power of thunder, they are much weaker than the punishment of heaven. However, they are also quite powerful. There is no problem in beating the desolate, frozen soil, Prosperous, and Sky Curtain. Although 32 is in the second echelon, she is also in the forefront of the second echelon, and is stronger than the Natural Disaster. The main reason is her powerful body formed by swallowing and absorbing many demons. Although it is a bit complicated, her power is the largest among all demons. It is more than the other 8 demons. However, due to the attribute, she lacks attack power. Although she can manifest the relative seeker power obtained from Izir and transform into the form of lightning and fire, there are also limitations. In general, she suffers from the attribute. However, because of the huge amount, she can do the action of overwhelming others with quantity and weighing quality with quantity. At the same time, she manifests 10 heads to attack, allowing her to form a powerful crushing situation. If it is against Cositus, Qin Ren has no doubt that 32 can kill Cositus directly with one move. After all, even the weakest Sky Curtain is stronger than anyone in Nazarick, including Aints. In terms of the attribute panel, although the floor guardians of Nazarick are level 100, Qin Ren estimated that they have the strength equivalent to sea level, but they are not taken down, but taken up. The strongest is only sea level, not at least sea level. Albedo was able to block 32's attack, which is undoubtedly worthy of praise. But how long can she hold out? Qin Ren raised his lips and turned his eyes to the other side. In a one-on-one duel, no one in Nazarick can beat Purgatory, but a 2v1 should be quite exciting. No, that's not right. Purgatory has a clone skill. With its wings flapping, the head that looked like a dragon and a demon turned around, and Purgatory's eyes returned to Demiurge and Sebastian. Then, his indifferent voice rang out, "Come on." The dark golden body was surrounded by evil, dark flames. Where the flames burned, the light and heat around Purgatory seemed to disappear in an instant. In the vision of Sebastian and Demiurge, the location of Purgatory became pitch black. Mind's eye, devil's eye. Sebastian and Demiurge use their skills without hesitation, as dragons and demons. Both of them have dark vision and can see things in the dark. But the situation is different now. The effect of dark vision is that you can see clearly even with very little light, and in the end, you still need light. But the enemy in front of him, the light around him has been gone, and it has disappeared into thin air along with the heat. In this case, it is natural to use perception skills as a substitute. Mind's Eye is a skill of Sebastian's profession monk. As a top melee NPC in Nazarick, this skill allows him to obtain the enemy's movements even if he loses his vision and even all perceptions. The Demon Eye is not a skill that uses the Devil Aspect series of the Shapeshifter class to obtain the organs of the Eye Demon. It is just a skill that adds a status bonus. Under the current circumstances, Demiurge does not think that obtaining the abilities of the Eye Demon type demons through the Devil Aspects will play a big role. Moreover, although the organs of the Devil Aspects can coexist, they are still limited. Devil Aspects, Advancing Speed. Demiurge used the Devil Aspects skill immediately after using the Demon Eye. In an instant, his originally slender body became even thinner, and the parts visible to the naked eye became more streamlined and smooth. Even the long tail that seemed to be wrapped in a silver metal plate became slender, and the tail section that looked like a metal plate became smoother, and the 6 spikes on it became more aerodynamic. Almost at the moment he used the skill, Purgatory moved. Cold, dark, and a cold trajectory formed by the eclipse flames devouring light and heat. A black arc swept through the air and attacked Demiurge directly. Without using any skills, Purgatory simply swung his claws at Demiurge. The claws were wrapped in dark flames. Still a little slow, Demiurge was shocked to find that after using the speed skill, his speed increased by nearly double, but he was still much slower than the opponent. However, the faster reaction and agility brought by the speed skill allowed him to react before the opponent's attack landed. Demon Aspects, Sharp Claws. Demiurge quickly raised his arms and blocked in front of him. The claws quickly stretched out and became sharp, and collided with Purgatory's claws. Chapter 581, Sebastian's Transformation into a Dragon. So fast, Purgatory collided with Demiurge, and passed by him together with Demiurge. Sebastian didn't realize it until he was 1 meter behind him. His eyes and even consciousness couldn't catch the speed immediately. What passed through his field of vision was a dark shadow, which passed by at the speed of lightning. If it was with his eyes, he wouldn't even react. After all, the only information that his vision could capture was that the black shadow disappeared. He was able to notice it because of the effect of his mind's eye. The perception that enveloped the surroundings like a sphere allowed him to determine the location of the enemy and Demiurge. He must assist Demiurge. Even though the relationship between the two was not harmonious, they should not fight each other at the moment. Dragon Wings attack. The wings behind him glowed faintly, and some scales appeared on Sebastian's face. As a dragon man, he possessed powerful strength, and when he stimulated the dragon bloodline, he could exert even greater power. Dragon Wing Assault is not a skill of a monk, but a skill of a profession that can only be employed by dragon people or lower-level dragon blood lizard people. It is not completely dependent on combat skills, but more on activating the dragon blood in the body and relying on partial dragon humanization to greatly enhance one's own abilities. It is similar to Demiurge's Devil's Aspects. As dark red lines appeared on the wing, the whites of his eyes turned black, and his pupils turned from black to red. Sebastian's body bombarded towards Purgatory like a meteor. With the surging physical strength and the power from dragon blood, his right fist bombarded out. Vajra Smash. The monk's skill was used, and another force was added. This attack bombarded directly at Purgatory's lower back. But, buzz, the dark flame emerged from the long tail and condensed into a human form. No, to be precise, the posture of a dragon man. Sebastian's posture. Sebastian, who was condensed by black flames, stretched out his hands without fear and directly blocked Sebastian's heavy blow. Boom. With the sound of explosion, shockwaves like heavy hammers and earthquakes spread out, shaking the air and the tree-beard wall. The skill of the demon incarnation, Purgatory, can use the eclipse flame to create its own clone or reflect the clone of the target. Although such a clone cannot obtain the opponent's ability, if the opponent uses it within its perception range, it can use the eclipse flame as a substitute for the mirror image. For example, now, behind the fake Sebastian condensed by black flames, the huge wings condensed by black flames trembled slightly, and then boom. The surging flames suddenly rouse, and the black flames made the already huge dragon wings expand again. 5 meters, 10 meters, The black flame dragon wings spread out to a huge wingspan and pounced back at Sebastian. And diamond shatter. Sebastian's eyes widened as he looked at the dragon man in front of him, who looked like a fire element and was almost identical to him. He turned his right hand and turned it to the front, just like the action he had just used when he used this move. The terrifying power attacked him. It was not just the power. The black flames that attacked with his fists gave off a sense of danger that made his body instinctively feel. Wind twister. As his MP was consumed, a violent whirlwind suddenly surged on his hands. Like whips and ropes, the invisible wind ropes surged around his fists like a rope. Wind twister. This move is not a skill of the dragon blood fighter, but a skill of the monk and its advanced professions. Through the rope-like wind ropes, the target is entangled in the continuous punches, making it impossible for the target to dodge the attack. However, Sebastian did not intend to entangle the black smoke that made his body feel dangerous around him. The wind ropes swung out with Sebastian's fists and hit the black flame. Sebastian's fists that used the diamond crush to attack him. Snap, snap. The powerful blow that was strong enough to crush metal, stone, and iron was instantly misfired under the whipping of the two whirlwind ropes. The black flame clone, which was constantly devouring light and heat and emitting an astonishing chill, used the diamond crushing attack, but was blocked by the wind twister hammer. The wind twister hammer was used by Sebastian as a glove, a shield, and a long-range attack weapon. With a sharp sound, the wind twister hammer tore the black flame clone's fists apart, and then attacked the black flame clone's heart as Sebastian swung his fist. If this attack hit, the black flame clone's body would be directly split in half with the whipping of the wind ropes, just like the pair of fists. However, just as Sebastian tried to expand the victory, the wind ropes that were thrown out with his fists were suddenly cut off. They were several dark ropes formed by black flames. Wind twister hammer. What? When Sebastian realized that the black flame rope that was also whipped in the form of a whip was a modified use of his wind twister skill, he immediately reacted. Dragon swordsmanship. The red in his eyes increased a little more, and the round pupils had completely turned into vertical pupils. His clenched fists suddenly loosened, forming a palm horizontally and vertically, and slashed forward with force. Dragon swordsmanship. The skill of the dragon blood fighter, condenses the power derived from dragon blood into the form of a sharp sword to slash. It was visible to the naked eye that a layer of dark red, like a sharp sword, like gas and light, was wrapped around his right palm. It easily tore through the rope-like black flames that came from his wind twister, and collided with the sharp sword formed by the dragon swordsmanship. Snap, boom. Although it was not a physical entity, a sound was heard at the moment of collision. With the sound of explosion, the dark red sword directly cut off the black flame whip. Under normal circumstances, after disintegrating the enemy's attack, the tactic of regrouping and attacking again will be generated. However, in this case, the enemy in front of him will copy the skills he used again. In this case, the battle will be prolonged. Although he is confident in his own martial arts, Sebastian did not miss the opportunity. He had discovered before that when the opponent used Diamond Breaker and was broken by his wind twister, there was a momentary delay. At that time, as a martial arts master and the strongest melee fighter among the people in Nazarick, Sebastian had already made a countermeasure in his mind. Sure enough, when the black flame rope was cut off, the opponent was delayed as he expected. It was at this time. Dragon Break. The chin with white beard had completely turned dark red at this moment, and the reptile scales had covered most of his face and neck. The huge dragon wings had become as heavy as steel. It was as if Sebastian was about to transform into a dragon, and such a change, dragon manification, brought an explosive improvement in ability. Just like Shao Tier's third stage, the Dragon Man transformation is Sebastian's strongest form. Boom. With a loud bang, Sebastian's entire body was enveloped in a dark red, gas-like and radiant force. Like a giant dragon or a meteor, Sebastian's body rushed out and directly pierced through the black flame clone that was in a sluggish state. Just like the sound barrier generated when a fighter plane breaks through the speed of sound, the pierced black flame clone formed circles of black ripples around Sebastian. P.S. It was completely free to play. Maruyama didn't even write down Sebastian's skills. It's also unknown whether he's a red dragon, a black dragon, or what kind of dragon man. Spreading hands. Chapter 582, Sebastian's defeat. The Black Flame clone was destroyed. Purgatory, who realized this situation, turned his head and looked over. At this time, Demiurge also noticed his action. As a command-type character, Demiurge was not strong in frontal combat. He was suppressed by Purgatory without any pressure. He had no room to fight back and could only use the two skills Demon Aspects Purgatory Vest and Demon Aspects War Arm Guard to defend. Although it is a defensive skill, the defensive effect of Purgatory Vest is not the main effect. The main effect is that it can allow him to have the high temperature of Purgatory that is enough to melt steel. Similarly, the War Arm Guard, which is not known whether it is a skill that imitates the Giant Bull Demon, the Iron Cavalry Demon, or the Steel Demon, has the main effect of increasing the impact force when launching a melee charge against the target, causing greater damage. The high-strength defense that can offset the impact on itself is only a byproduct. He has skills specifically for defense, but those skills have been penetrated without exception. In front of him, the enemy in front of him, the right arm that looks like a dragon man and a demon, is surrounded by circles of light marks. Infinity Wall, Mantle of Demon, Magic World, Endorni Ability Force Field were pierced the moment they were used. War Arm Guards and Purgatory Vestments were also last resorts. And now was his chance. Freezing of Judka, a skill named after the fourth realm of Ice Hell and the Divine Comedy, Juda Realm Judka. At the moment when the MP value began to drop rapidly, a heart-pounding chill surged from Demiurge's armor-covered, elephant-like arms and attacked Purgatory's body. Although it was called freezing, it was not real frost, a control skill that freezes the target's time with the concept of freezing. In an instant, Purgatory, who turned his head curiously because the Black Flame clone was defeated, felt the power of this skill, as if his whole body was buried in the earth, sealed into the rock, and nailed into the ice. The strong confinement of the whole body, even the mind began to solidify. And the Dragon Man Sebas, who defeated the Black Flame clone with the Dragon Collapse, continued to charge at him. If he hit him with one blow, he might be pierced through like the Black Flame clone and turned into a bloody smoke. But unfortunately, it didn't work on him. Visible to the naked eye, a black light fell from the sky, or rose from the ground to the sky. Like a giant pillar standing between heaven and earth, the eclipse flame condensed around Purgatory and formed a giant pillar. At the same time, circles of phantoms emerged around the dark eclipse pillar. Evil, cold, and dark. In the strange pressure that was mottled and mixed, and seemed to be integrated, a mirror-like plane formed and overlapped around the eclipse pillar to form a huge black pyramid. The huge temple complex, which was stacked one after another, seemed like hundreds of pyramids overlapped in another world. It was an illusory yet real temple complex. The great temple in the mirror, being in the Purgatory in the center, his body seemed to be directly detached from the real world. His body turned into a phantom and disappeared in front of everyone. In addition, the skill used by Demiurge, Judika's Freeze, a powerful control skill that can freeze the time of an individual, shifted on the stacked Great Temple, on the mirror that looked like a pyramid. Then, it fell on Sebastian. In an instant, Sebastian's body seemed to be still and embedded in the air, and the terrifying impact was also sealed. Not good. It turned out to be such a skill. Demiurge had never expected that this would be the result. His skill would actually fall on his companion. The moment he realized this, Demiurge immediately raised his hand again and used the skill to release the control on Sebastian. This skill is a release type, not a continuous maintenance type. Once it is released, the effect is no longer under his control. If he wanted to cancel it, he could only use a time countermeasure skill, but it was too late. The next moment, in the vision of Demiurge's crystal eyes, the enemy who had avoided the attack with the skill of the other dimension attacked Sebas. No, it was not the Sebas that he had fixed, but another Sebas, who was like a phantom, in the same pyramid-like space as the opponent. Soul, a skill of the dead spirit. When the skill of canceling control flew out of his hand, this thought came to Demiurge's mind. When the skill of canceling control landed on Sebas, in Demiurge's eyes, The phantom of SYNOPSIS in the other dimension had been torn apart by the enemy, from the center of the body. The sharp claws wrapped in black flames cut off from the head of SYNOPSIS's phantom, and the sharp claws cut him directly in half. Demiurge watched this scene and used the skill again. Life essence. SYNOPSIS's life information was displayed in his eyes. 2/3 left. The illusory image displayed in the long rectangle indicated that Sebastian still had about 2/3 of his life left. As if to prove this point, Sebastian, who had been released from control, maintained his Dragonman form and passed through the phantom-like alien space and came in front of him. It seems that we need to use the space system. When Demiurge subconsciously judged this scene and wanted to tell Sebastian about the countermeasures, he found that Sebastian's movements had stopped. "Sebastian, you." Demiurge's voice just sounded and stopped abruptly. He suddenly found that Sebastian's life, which was nearly 2/3, had become empty at this time. Then, the effect of the life essence disappeared. In the field of vision, the phantom-like long rectangle had disappeared. The life essence is a status effect, and it will not disappear until it is dispelled or the duration ends. But there is an exception. The target is killed. Demiurge's face quickly became gloomy. In the field of vision, Sebastian's body, as if repeating the death of the phantom that was torn apart by the enemy in the alien space just now, split in the middle. The dark flame, the terrible flame that devoured light and heat, surged from the cross-section, burning and devouring Sebastian's body. "Sebastian!" Crack! The mirror of the glasses worn on Demiurge's nose burst instantly. "Don't be so angry, it's your turn now." The furious Demiurge, who was beginning to completely demonize, whispered in his ears. Chapter 583 Shao Tier's Defeat. At the same time, the battle between Huang Wu and Zhao Kangda is about to come to an end. It is not a scene that can be fully presented or simply described by words or pictures. It is a spectacular battle. In the sky, the huge, vortex-like black hole is releasing magnificent and evil stars. Space cracks. That is not some wonderful magic. In the vast and magnificent scenery that seems like a picture of the universe, the numerous silver light streams that are like stars are fragments of space. The nebulae and light balls that are diffused in the distance are also the scenes caused by the tearing of space. Magnificent but terrifying. Well, the space of this world is pitifully brittle. The taste of Hydra's blood is not bad. Qin Ren drank the delicious drink while crossing his legs and observing the battle. Because this alien world often intersects and collides with another Earth world, the space is not very stable. Moreover, the rules of this world have also been distorted due to the rewriting of a world-class prop. In short, this world is very brittle now. Minoli once again incarnated as the devil restraining force. Even if it was only an incomplete body that could not reach the world level, it would have a great impact on this world. If it continued for a while, the world itself would probably collapse, right? Needless to say, his incarnation of will, a group of demons, and Minoli all had the ability to survive in space cracks and space turbulence. Of course, it also depends on the level of the space crack. If the two worlds collapsed and exploded directly, forming a world-scale space crack, then it would still be a bit difficult to deal with. And if it was a violent space turbulence of this scale, a space storm generated between the two worlds, then Qin Ren's incarnation of will probably couldn't hold up to this scale. He couldn't hold up, let alone the yellow sand demons. Even the strongest purgatory among the yellow sand demons would only become a pile of dregs when encountering this level of space storm, just like those minions. Qin Ren's eyes swept over several summons and roots of prosperity that were swept by the magnificent space fragments and cut from the center of their bodies like cotton candy. However, Qin Ren still has the yellow sand world, a huge world that he can rely on to travel through at will. With the yellow sand world, even the strongest space storm should be no problem. Originally, traveling through the yellow sand world requires stability in the turbulence of space. As long as these space turbulences are not too large, they can be easily blocked by the yellow sand world. However, if it is really of this level, regardless of whether it can be blocked in terms of destructive power, the impact of the space storm should be able to interfere with the direction of the yellow sand world. But no matter how it is destroyed, it will not affect the stability of the yellow sand world. Only this point can Qin Ren guarantee. After all, Even if his will incarnation attacks the yellow sand world with all his strength, he cannot break the eggshell, the body that is hundreds of times stronger than the will incarnation and is sleeping in the yellow sand world cannot destroy the eggshell by brute force. The powerful force based on itself is the source of Qin Ren's mysterious confidence. But what about other worlds, or the two worlds themselves? Qin Ren seemed to be an outsider, watching indifferently with a laughing attitude. However, it was almost time. The mastermind, or the mastermind's subordinates, lackeys, and the guys who were watching him, were almost here, and he should prepare to leave. But before that, he needed to draw a not-so-bad ending. Qin Ren raised his head and looked at the demons and the guardians of Nazarick fighting in the air. His first sight fell on the body of the natural disaster, half man, half horse, half man, half deer. This wind demon, who existed in the elemental form of storm and thunder, was holding high the night-like lance composed of spiral wind blades and jumping lightning arcs in his hand. Opposite her, Shoutir, who had entered the third form, the Valkyrie form, had a gloomy face. Around her, the lightning arcs that came with the ubiquitous strong wind seemed to hit her, but were blocked by layers of thick blood-colored shields and were not damaged. There was not a single scratch on the surface. But her mana was close to the limit. The opponent was very difficult and thorny. No matter how many times she attacked, the opponent could resolve it. The storm and thunder made her summons unable to play their due role. On the contrary, every attack from the opponent could make her close to death. Using the summons that had become useless, Shoutir used her own blood-sucking skills and the dropper spear to restore her life. After dozens of fights, she had maintained a state of almost full HP. But correspondingly, her remaining MP was less than 8%. If she continued to fight, she might be the first to lose. Shoutir felt uneasy. If she was not doing well, the opponent would naturally not be able to maintain full MP. But Shoutir had no idea how much HP and MP the opponent had left. Skills such as Life Essence did not work, and the opponent had means to deal with such skills. And the opponent also had the same, even stronger frontal combat ability as her. After making a judgment, Shoutir finally decided to use a tactic that she occasionally used but not often. Perfect Unknowable. Complete Unknowable can eliminate all sounds or breaths. Unless it is a very high-level perception system, or a thief system, it is difficult to detect. Although Shoutir is not a thief system, this skill is not exclusive to the thief system. It is a magic skill. Many mages have this skill. As a vampire, Shoutir often moves at night, so she also knows this skill. But how naive. The beautiful and cold natural disaster, the eyebrows condensed by the whirlwind on the female face stood up, and a trace of blue arcs kept flowing and jumping between the eyebrows. Eye of the Storm attacks a single or multiple targets, and removes the target's disguise and stealth state. As the skill is used, a violent whirlwind swirls at the position where Shoutir was just now, expanding rapidly at a terrifying speed, and then the agitated lightning diffracts out, like the lightning surging in the center of a tornado, jumping in the center of the storm eye. Then, the figure of Shoutir wearing bright red armor appeared. "I got you, little bat, or little eel?" His eyes fixed on Shoutir, who was entangled in the whirlwind and lightning. A cruel smile appeared on the corner of Scourge's mouth, and the knight's lance in his hand thrust out. Scourge's lance of the end. As if the whole sky was stirred up, the terrifying storm mixed with thunder, in a spiral posture like a knight's lance, bombarded Shoutir. Shoutir, defeated. Chapter 584, Aura's Defeat. At this moment, Tian Wei was obviously very angry. Being frozen and trapped in a cage was also a huge insult to her. She was no longer the innocent and ignorant rain girl when she was first created by the Qin people. She was a demon. She was the water demon who controlled the rain people and had been fighting with other yellow sand demons for thousands of years. Thousands of years had passed in the yellow sand world. Even though the creator did not give her power and did not let her increase her power, her fighting skills had also risen with her self-esteem. What was frozen was her inflated self-esteem, and what shattered with the frost was her arrogance. Although she did not have a chance of defeating other demons, it was not right to be suppressed and blocked by such low-level creatures like ants. When the Qin people lamented that Tian Wei was no longer innocent and cute, but had become interesting, She launched an attack. Die! Tanwai's voice was very light, but very firm. The shame of being trapped in the ice and almost being defeated by the other side came to his mind again. The tentacles condensed from the dark liquid flew towards Aura again. Dragon shape. Transform into a giant dragon. Without Mera's assistance, Aura could only use her most powerful killer move at this time, the transformation skill. As a high-level beast tamer, one of her most powerful skills is the skill of transforming into a dragon monster. The six-legged giant lizard spewed out frost, and the black giant wolf's mouth gushed out a storm. At the same time, Aura's body quickly grew larger, the fiery red body, not very strong lines, but there is no doubt that it is a giant dragon. Roar! Along with the deafening roar, the fiery red scales on the thick dragon neck suddenly flashed with a bright light like flames, and the huge dragon head suddenly opened, and a torrent of flames spewed out of the dragon's mouth. The power of three colors intertwined, especially the ice, wind and fire that were supposed to collide, but at this moment, there was no explosion. However, the conflict contained in it will always explode at a moment. When it hit the dark tentacles shot out by Tanwai, boom! Explosion, a deafening explosion. The cold ice wind and the scorching fire flow mixed together, and when they hit the dark tentacles, they suddenly exploded. Red, blue, white. The ripples of colors intertwined quickly spread to the surroundings, and the conflicting parties. Hundreds of dark tentacles were suddenly penetrated by the impact of the ice and fire torrent. Evaporation, freeze, the dark water dissipated. The torrent of ice and fire completely penetrated the tentacles and hit Tanwai's body. A sharp cold light flashed in Tanwai's dark blue pupils, and a dark blue trident suddenly appeared in her hand. In the trident, there were faint sounds like the roar of sea beasts and the cry of sea spirits, which were soul-stirring and terrifying. The broken water tentacles shook and swayed, and Tanwai shouted in a low voice, "Tsunami pressure!" Along with the sound, Tanwai suddenly threw the trident in his hand. The violent and surging power descended, and the dark blue trident seemed to turn into a dark blue lightning. Even the flying space fragments were impacted and instantly collided with the ice and fire torrent. Boom! It was as if the heavy rain that lasted for millions of years in the history of the earth came again, as if the great flood events and various myths were reproduced. The dark blue trident turned into a raging flood and a vast tsunami. It was as if the ocean fell from the sky, and the black tide pressed down heavily on the sky. Qin Ren looked at this scene and couldn't help but smile. The huge tide, from the scale, was the size of a lake. If you have to say the sea, it is about the same as the Dead Sea, but if Tanwai is upgraded to B-level, perhaps a Red Sea or a Mediterranean Sea will fall. If it is A-level, an ocean that can cover the earth. Qin Ren was daydreaming here, but Aura was actually in crisis. The black tide like a tsunami easily crushed the torrent of ice and fire. The cold icy wind froze a piece of tide, but in the next second, it was directly crushed by the subsequent pressure. The scorching flames like molten lava could only evaporate a tiny amount of water. As the black tide approached, Aura had the illusion that she was experiencing the collapse of the sky and the crack of the earth. Fin. But even so, Aura did not lose her composure. In her roar, the storm gushing out of the mouth of the pitch-black giant wolf became sharp and sharp. Like a sharp cone, Aura wanted to pierce the tide with a fierce wind. She also spurted out a stream of scorching fire from her mouth, trying to increase the power with fire. And, when Aura turned her attention to another pet, preparing it to build a defense with frost, she felt an abnormal feeling of disconnection. It was as if something was disconnected. It was a contract with a monster, and this contract was Qin. Although in the battle, Aura, who had transformed into a giant dragon, could not help but slightly turn her heterochromatic eyes to look at her pet that looked like a combination of an iguana and a chameleon. Behind Qin, two huge, dark blue tentacles that were close to black appeared. The huge tentacles that looked like an octopus and a venomous snake had already penetrated Qin's body. The tentacles condensed from water penetrated from below and stretched out from Qin's head. The suction cups were attached to the amber eyes and smooth scales on its head, dissolving. Qin's body was dissolving. Wherever Qin was touched, it was dissolving. Dissolving rain. Qin Ren couldn't help shaking his head as he watched this scene. and turned his gaze to the ground beneath Aura. If there was anything that could represent Tian Wei, it would be fickleness. Arrogant and angry? That's true. Insidious and cruel? That's true. No one has ever said that Tian Wei can only maintain one emotion at a time. Or, has Tian Wei ever fully expressed her emotions? Water can carry a boat, but it can also overturn it. No, it shouldn't be this sentence. What is the ancient saying that can express that water is fickle? Qin Ren was entangled in the use of words. The death of Yggdrasil made Aura angry. The sharp fangs were surrounded by flames, and the terrifying flames suddenly burst out of Aura's mouth. The terrifying flames enveloped Yggdrasil's corpse. The corpse, which was mostly melted by the touch of dissolution, was engulfed by the flames. However, just when this action was completed, Aura was startled. The reaction was wrong. At this moment, if Yggdrasil died, she would be angry, but she would not do such a thing. Aura's dragon eyes turned back, and in her sight, a mermaid-like girl was gently stroking her nose with a sweet smile on her face. You fought my clone for so long, it was hard, but it's a pity that you didn't realize that I was always under your feet. This was the last voice that sounded in Aura's mind. Chapter 585, Hell Abyss. 32s long, sharp, high-pitched voice, like the roar of a giant snake, sounded. The strange and evil voice was like an ancient spell that was difficult to pronounce. Although it could be heard clearly, no matter who it was, they could feel a sense of weirdness as if space and time were disordered. Multi-headed demon god, all manifested. It was not just the appearance of the demon god that was assimilated and absorbed by her. Nor was it just the appearance of 10 giant snakes with 10 snake heads appearing at the same time, as if from the ancient times. The vicissitudes of life and evil light enveloped 32 10 snake heads. The next moment, the snake heads that were originally unique, some covered with black and purple snake heads as smooth as mirrors, some without flesh and blood, like skeletons, and some with double horns and covered with feathers, became more and more obvious, and became more and more contrary to the appearance of the giant snake. The characteristics and various powers are fully manifested. This is the power of the skill of the multi-headed demon god. Buzz buzz buzz, each of the snake heads, which had either fangs or rows of teeth and were increasingly moving away from the shape of snakes, opened their snake mouths, and the power gathered in front of the snake mouths, forming 10 small balls. Then, boom, shooting towards Albedo. Aegis. Shield of Aegis. It seemed that the relief with Medusa's head inlaid in it suddenly emerged from the void as the outline of the shield condensed. When the snake hair swayed, the surface of the pair of vertical pupils rippled with golden light. Then, the smooth shield surface reflected the scene like a mirror. In mythology, when Medusa released the petrification curse, Perseus used the shield surface like a mirror to rebound the curse, causing Medusa to be hit herself. This skill has the effect of rebounding attacks. But it had been broken once before, and this time was no exception. Bang! The evil beams shot out from the 10 heads of the gradually manifested giant snake suddenly bombarded the shield, and the blood red and black entangled, erupting with terrifying aftermath. Shockwaves like a meteorite impact emerged, and a large number of fine space turbulences fell from the sky, pushed by the violent aftermath. Like the scene produced when the waves collided in the sea, the space fluctuations and the evil black beam aftermath spread to both sides like a tsunami. But this was only the beginning. After enduring such a huge impact for the third, no, second, it suddenly shattered. The 10 beams themselves were like a pitch-black giant snake, like fangs, and like forked beams like spears, directly piercing the shield of Aegis summoned by Albedo. The head of Medusa, which seemed to be embedded in the middle of the shield, was shining with golden light. In less than half a second, it had already faded its original color. Even at this time, the head of Medusa on the shield seemed to come alive, and the snakes opened their mouths to bite the black beams, but it was only level 5. Crack! The shield, as smooth as a mirror, was directly torn apart by the beams like fangs. The head of Medusa, which seemed to be embedded in the center, was also directly shattered by the snake's teeth and exploded violently. Boom! Amid the loud noise, the turbulence of space and the aftermath raged, and the huge impact formed could no longer be deflected, and it directly hit Albedo. With such an impact, Everyone in Nazarick had to temporarily avoid the sharp edge. Western Wall. It was as if countless people were praying at the same time, as if countless people were crying, and as if countless people were sighing. In this complex and despairing sound, a female voice was particularly noticeable, appearing in Greek mythology. It is a wall that separates the paradise world and the underworld, where only those chosen by the gods can go after death. Countless souls were isolated by this wall of sighs, and listening to the three sighs of Persephone, the queen of the underworld. Engraved in the wall of sighs was the wall of sighs. In this game that weaves together a lot of myths and legends, it barely ranks as a skill in the 10th tier. It was not that he barely reached the 10th level, but that he barely stayed at the 10th level. This skill was the most powerful skill that was closest to super-level magic. A huge shield that appeared like a mountain and a world barrier directly blocked the attack. The dark beam that seemed to fall like a mountain and a black tide tsunami directly hit the wall of sighs. This time, the wall of sighs was not destroyed, for now, 10 beams of light gushed out from the 10 heads of the demon god that were no longer snake-shaped. The moment they hit the wall of sighs, they overflowed in all directions along the gullies on the wall of sighs. The dark beams of light directly hit the root wall of prosperity, visible to the naked eye. Deep marks appeared on the root wall of prosperity. But that was all. The root wall regenerated and recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye the moment it was destroyed. The ejected black beams also stopped afterwards. The wall of sighs still stood in that position, but it was already covered with cracks. In a split second, Albedo had no time to sort out the current situation, and she had no extra strength. She could only survive in the process of passively resisting the attack. However, at least she had a chance to breathe. Albedo's eyes swept across the wall of sighs, which was on the verge of breaking but could still resist. At this moment, Albedo picked up the long-handled battle axe with green light again, and many fine patterns appeared on it. Then, she swung it heavily at the wall next to her. This battle axe is not an ordinary weapon, nor is it an artifact-level weapon like the weapons held by other guardians. This battle axe is a world-class item, Helibis. It usually looks like a black short stick with a sphere on the top, and its posture in combat is such a huge axe. But its effect is quite special. When used normally, its performance is worse than that of a special artifact-level item, and worse than the weapons of other guardians. Moreover, when it is used on people, it does not have any special damage increase or additional destructive power. It is no different from swinging an ordinary axe. But when the target is not a living body, but an object, a tall building, or a strong physical defense target, it can work. The ability of the world-class item, Helibis, is to destroy objects. She finally had the opportunity to attack the wall. As long as Helibis hits the wall, it can be easily destroyed. Albedo's eyes revealed from the visor showed a firm look. Boom. When the wall of sighs was attacked again, Albedo had already swung the giant axe and hit the root wall, but Albedo's eyes widened. A long snake tail blocked her way, and "It hurts, my body hurts." The long snake tail passed through the center of her body from behind her. "Dare you be distracted while fighting me?" A heart-pounding voice rang in Albedo's ears, and at the same time, her consciousness began to sink. Chapter 586 Epilogue. Qin Ren looked at the names of Albedo, Shouter, Aura, and Sebastian that appeared on the pages of the Book of Demon God, and he couldn't help but yawn. Well, as for the characters that have appeared, except for the Platinum Dragon King and the dwarves of the Dwarf Kingdom, and that rubbish Frost Dragon King, and the remaining Nazarick NPCs, I have basically collected them all. In fact, Qin Ren didn't want to change his goal to collecting illustrations, but the plan changed. A mistake about Demiurge caused his single-threaded plan to change, and this drama ended hastily. The various condiments that were originally prepared were not served. However, it was too late. Let's end it. Qin Ren snapped his fingers. In an instant, the demon god who had not yet defeated his opponent, Purgatory, spread his wings, and his body once again escaped into the Mirror Composite Grand Temple, disappeared from the Mirror Composite Grand Temple, and returned to the Yellow Sand World. The Wasteland, who was playing with Jiao Kangda like a human playing with an ant, bowed to the Qin people. His body scattered, and returned to the yellow sand world in the scene where the 1,000-meter-high giant god's body collapsed and the black sand fell like rain. The prosperity in the form of a giant tree also saluted the Qin people from a distance, and then the 1,000-meter-high giant tree disappeared on the spot. The frozen soil, which had knocked down Caucasus again and again, looked down at the enemy in a kingly manner, waiting for the enemy to challenge again and again to satisfy its pleasure. Also returned to the yellow sand world. Buzz buzz buzz. The remaining targets that had not been killed by his demons, finally, also returned to the yellow sand world after learning the Qin people's order. However, just like the prosperity returned to the yellow sand world, but the pieces of tree whiskers that formed the arena, the temporary reappearance of the body, the huge body hovering in the sky, swirling like a black hole, also remained. That body was originally created by killing a large number of demons. The body that catalyzed the life on Earth in the entire timeline of the Type Moon world was not wanted, let alone this one. Finally left without hesitation and returned. But because of this, the small restraining force that lost its leadership began to riot. Crack, crack, crack. The powerful force no longer had any restraint and tore the surrounding space wantonly. Like a meteor shower, space debris fell in all directions. The root wool left by prosperity was also hit by space debris and torn into pieces. The other guardians who stayed in the arena because of the withdrawal of the demon god were also stunned at this time. Caucasus climbed up again with the idea of defeating the enemy, and cast his eyes around in confusion. At the end of his sight, the tall wall that was not affected by ice and cold was now crumbling due to frost cracks, and the teleportation skills that were originally unusable could be used again. Demiurge, who showed his true form, was also confused. Even if he turned into a demon, as a character of the command and control system, he had no confidence in defeating the enemy who killed Sebastian. Similarly, standing next to the two dragon corpses that looked like mummies, the wounded mayor was shocked to find that the teleport skill could be used. However, he didn't know where the tree demon-like enemy had gone. Jiao Kangda, the guardian of Nazarick who was not created by the 4 Taiwan players, became confused because he lost his target and turned to attack the surrounding walls. Ainz couldn't understand it either. He had no idea what was going on. Looking at the turbulent black vortex in the sky, he immediately summoned the guardians to his side. Demiurge and others who received the order naturally used the teleport skill to come to Ainz's side. However, just as Ainz was about to ask for the details, a voice rang in everyone's heart, including the class guardians and other NPCs in Nazarick who were protecting Nazarick. Well, let's kill each other. Demiurge, you guys kill Ainz, Qin Ren said while yawning. HMPH. This kind of thing. Ainz also heard the voice. Although he subconsciously became alert, his reason told him that Demiurge and others would not betray him. Buzz buzz buzz. Summon Monsters 10th. Summoning a 10th level monster. Stream of lava. Large lava stream. Karkula. Kurgara sword. Mare. Demiurge, and Caucasus attacked Ainz at the same time. Ainz could never imagine such a thing, and he had never expected it. Qin Ren, on the other hand, watched this scene quietly. At the beginning, when the two worlds intersected and the waves caused Nazarick and the NPCs to materialize in this different world, Qin Ren had already made some moves, including Ainz himself. All the NPCs have been mixed with his power. As long as Qin Ren wants, he can control everyone with a snap of his fingers. However, this is not fun. At least Qin Ren did not want to use this method to solve the problem when the single-threaded plan went wrong. After all, that would be too boring. Now, although it is very rough, there is no doubt that there is still a little fun. Qin Ren comforted himself in his heart. What he is doing now is just changing the camp. Ainz's camp, Old Bone. There is a coup d'etat going on in Nazarick now. Qin Ren crossed his legs, ready to enjoy this last drama, and finally take all these characters away. And that's it. The power of the black dragon posture wrapped around the long sword held by Caucasus with both hands, and slashed towards Ainz. The attack named after the incarnation of the Akala Vidyaro, one of the 5 great Buddhist kings. The Akala Vidyaro instantly made Ainz suffer. When the Kurkara sword was swung, the sound of thunder sounded, restraining the evil attribute attack. If it was implemented, it would also be a heavy blow to Aints. However, Aints used the skill, Time Stop. Time Stop. The 10th level magic can stop time. When facing the attack of 3 people at the same time, Aints did not have a protective means to resist the attack of 3 people at the same time. The skill of Time Stop is the best strategy. However, Time Stop is not a panacea. As long as there are countermeasures for time-related skills, I never thought that there would be a day when I would be in opposition to Aints-sama. Ah, what kind of great power is this? Along with the voice came the endless river of magma. Demiurge, maximize magic middle. Vermilion Oval. Facing the attack, Aints did not choose to passively defend, but used attack as defense. In this stagnant space and time, the vermilion fire that looked like exploding stars collided with a river of magma. In the terrifying impact, flames and high-temperature magma splashed everywhere, like a volcanic eruption. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 587, The End of the Shadow of Crow. Although Cositus and Mare were stilled by the time stop effect, Demiurge, who had already prepared a time stop countermeasure, was not affected and fought with Aints. However, Qin Ren had no interest in their fight. At his level, he had only fought against city-level enemies, and in his eyes, it was no different from a group of little brats playing house. Qin Ren did not think their fight was interesting, only the element of subordinate betrayal was slightly attractive to him. But at this moment, Qin Ren suddenly raised his head, as if a switch had been turned on. A thought flashed through his mind, as if he remembered something. He couldn't help but raise his hand and look at his wrist. No wonder I feel something is wrong. Is this just a clone? He raised his head, and in his gradually blurred vision, the yellow sand world also turned into an illusion and dissipated. Mirror image. The yellow sand world is also just a mirror image. Although it is said that to deceive others, you must deceive yourself first, but making the clone think that you are the real body and retaining wrong information, deceiving the clone to become bait. This operation is really. Qin Ren smiled. But, that means that you are ready, right? While talking to himself, his body dissipated like smoke. Outside the world, the figure of a crow suddenly emerged. How cunning, you actually found me, and deliberately concealed your breath, using the clone to lead me to another world. But, you are still too naive. Although you are born from the remains of that person, you are still too young compared to that person's methods. The crow muttered to himself, and his dark pupils swept across the countless branches of time in this world, looking for the target. No, not here either. It shouldn't be. The transformation has not been completed, the shell has not disappeared, and it is impossible to control the sealed world through external means. Humanized doubts appeared on the crow's face. No. After scanning the entire world and all time branches, it was finally able to confirm that there was no sealed world here. Did it run away again? The mirror image that created the sealed world deceived twice, but it didn't expect that this time it would be a mirror illusion. It was fooled 3 times. How abominable. Should it be the one who was worthy of being dealt with by the master himself? Even the individual born from the corpse of that person, who can't even be called a reincarnation, can easily fool itself. It needs to be reported to Master Prometheus. As for this world, just reset it directly. Anyway, it will be abandoned and decomposed after a while. But wait, there seems to be something. With doubts, the crow's figure turned. Silently, it went directly from outside the world to a time branch. Aints was still fighting with Demiurge, although Demiurge was not affected, for Mare and Cositus, who did not prepare time countermeasures in advance, using time stop to reduce opponents was a good tactic. But, Lord Aints, I won't let my fighting power go to waste. Demiurge raised his glasses, and the light of his skills surged towards Cositus and Mare. But at this moment, Demiurge seemed to notice something. Wait a minute, could it be? Aints' skull face was cold. The total level of his professions was about 60. However, all his professions were specialized in the direction of the dead. Therefore, he got the profession of Overlord. This profession is very rare even in Drizzle. Aints was able to learn this profession because he did not stick to the direction of strengthening combat power, but because of his interest in specializing in characteristics and concentrating on training the dead system to the limit. In this process of learning a profession that was completely for interest, he got an extreme profession. The description of the Eclipse profession states that only the ruler of death who has truly exhausted death can become this profession and devour all life like an eclipse. The prerequisite is to be a level 5 ruler of death, and you must also specialize in the magic profession of the necromancy system to learn this profession when the total level reaches 95, so only a few players can learn it. Although he is not the only one who has obtained the Eclipse profession, there are still many players like him who specialize in the death profession because of their interest in the past 10 years. However, no one knows how they got it. If it were a normal game, as long as someone finds this undiscovered profession, there is a high probability that it will be written on the strategy website and shared with all players. However, the information of the game Idrisal is very valuable, and there are even guilds that specialize in selling intelligence to make money. Such special profession information and world-class props information can be sold at a very high price. Even if it is discovered, few people are willing to tell others for free, and even because of the desire for exclusivity, they will not sell it even if someone buys it. Therefore, basically, it can be said that most people who get special professions are independent of each other. The Killer of the Eclipse class is a special skill that can only be learned after the Eclipse reaches the highest level, level 5, and can only be used once in 100 hours. The goal of all life is death. Instantly, a clock showing 12 o'clock appeared behind Aints. It only takes 12 seconds to kill all targets in the range, no matter whether they are various alien or non-alien races. Even the undead with resistance to instant death cannot be immune to the effect of deducting all HP, except for resurrection items. There is no way to avoid it. Moreover, it is an indiscriminate range attack, regardless of friend or foe. Aints doesn't care about this at all. He can't tell who betrayed and who didn't among the NPCs that emerged from Nazarick due to the accident, including Pandora he created, but he doesn't have extra time to judge now. But at this moment, a crow appeared in Aints' field of vision. Summoned creature? When Aints was confused, the crow said to Cossidus, "Give me the ring on your hand." Aints' eyes followed the voice and swept over Cossidus' right hand, which was unable to move due to the time stop. On his right hand, there was a ring item he didn't recognize. "It's in the way." Aints was curious about what the ring was, but now was not the time to talk about it. He raised his hand and activated the skill, Wide Magic Cry of the Banshee. The sharp female voice resounded through the sky, covering everything around, including the seemingly ordinary crow. However, just as he activated the skill, the crow turned its head and glanced at him. In an instant, Aints' consciousness fell into despair. The body standing at the top of the undead, where no instant death skills could be effective, turned into ashes and drifted away. It was not just the Aints in this timeline. All Aints or Gowns or Flying Squirrels who did not change their names in all timelines disappeared into the air as if erased by an eraser. After doing this, the crow did not react at all. It was like stepping on an ant and turned its sights to Cossidus, who was out of control because of the failure of the time-stop skill. The ring with a strange eyeball inlaid on the ring flew directly to its claws. The moment it touched the ring, complex emotions emerged in the crow's eyes. "I see. Do you want to negotiate with the master? You are such an ant who does not know your own abilities. Let's report to Lord Prometheus first." The matter was of great importance, and it did not dare to make a decision on its own. The crow's eyes flashed as it swept across the world that had broken away from the stillness of time and returned to normal. The next moment, the whole world suddenly collapsed and shattered, just like Aints was erased and suddenly dissipated, and the crow's figure also disappeared from the original place. Chapter 588, Clone? Where is this? When the Qin Ren woke up, he suddenly found something unusual. The power was gone. No, there was still power, the seed of power. But, there was only the seed. At this time, a voice came to his ear, "This torch can move in the seal. That is, Mistress, great. The master will be happy." Opening his eyes, a huge doll appeared in the Qin Ren's vision, just like. But, At this time, a menu bar appeared in front of him. Trial copy system v1.98 version. My clone you. Forget it. It sounds like a fool to talk like this. Anyway, I've made it clear that you are one of the baits. A scapegoat. I don't know if you will work. If you work, then it's okay. If you don't work and survive, then I don't care what you do next. It doesn't matter if you grow to the point where you can compete with me and then rebel against me, the original body. It's better to say that I am looking forward to this development. My clone grows up and rebels. No matter how you think about it, it's interesting. Try your best to grow up and then come back to kill me. By the way, since there is no yellow sand world as a battery, your system has no function, but don't worry, I am still very friendly to my clones. Do you remember the Eclipse Dragon I synthesized before? Although I can't do everything, I still used the prophetic power as the prototype and the mirror as the mode to make an experimental system. Although I can't use skills directly like the original, I still have the seeds of power. Through the middle finger of power, you can slowly grow. How is the upgrade mode from scratch? Are you excited? Well, I guess not. After all, the personality and memory are exactly the same, and I still know what you think. Speaking of which, since the personality and memory are exactly the same, then are you me, and am I you? Next, the philosophical discussion of the main body and the clone involves a long discussion about the ego, self and superego. Qin Ren didn't read it, or he knew what the second half was after reading the first half, and there was no need to read it again, or he didn't have time to read it. As the voice sounded, the huge doll that looked like a baby doll walked towards him. Boom. With a loud noise, the rough big feet moved forward one step, shortening the distance from him from dozens of meters to more than 10 meters. Although it was a baby, the blue eye sockets and bloody mouth would not make anyone feel any maternal love, but only a creepy feeling. The monster-like doll attacked Qin Ren. Really? From having power to losing power, this is what is called easy from frugality to luxury, but difficult from luxury to frugality? The invincible feeling of being able to control everything with just a hand no longer existed, and what was left was only the weak power like that of an ordinary person. Qin Ren's legs tightened as he watched the arm like a cement pipe swinging. Although he could not use skills, he still had the memories he got when exchanging skills. Rampage. Renukton's E-skill uses powerful physical strength to rush in one direction and inflict damage on the target. With his current flesh, he couldn't do this, but he had all the skills to use it. He didn't need to show it completely, he just needed to accomplish the goal. No need to spin the body, no need to attack, just use the force technique of the upper charge. And there is Power Sprint. The Q skill of the armor dragon turtle Ramos curls up into a ball, increases the movement speed and causes a small knockback effect. After making a calm judgment, Qin Ren's legs were like animal claws. The ground did not collapse, only dust splashed. With his body curled up, Qin Ren's body rolled to the right and rushed out. Boom. The blue doll arm, like a concrete pillar, suddenly hit the ground, leaving a huge pit. The power is not too strong. When returning to a standing position from a rolling posture, Qin Ren commented on the enemy's destructive power. By the way, what is this thing called? Phosphorus? The key words just now: seal, mystis. This world is Shakugan no Shana, right? This world is divided into two worlds. One is the present world, which is literally the real world. The other is the red world, which is simply a neighbor of the real world, a different world. The creatures living in the red world are called disciples, red world apostles. After learning that the red world apostles knew about the existence of the present world, some red world apostles came from the red world to the present world. But here comes the problem: the power of existence. The energy that maintains the existence of all things in the present world is also the fundamental energy that the red world apostles need to appear in the present world and activate freedom. In other words, it is equivalent to something like vitality. Humans cannot resist the powerful red world apostles. Most of the red world apostles act recklessly in this world for their own desires and plunder the power of existence in the present world. But there are also harmless apostles, and there are also red world apostles who oppose the red world apostles' reckless behavior. When the power of existence is taken away and the individual with the power of existence dies, it will cause the world to distort. When the distortion becomes more, the world will be distorted. Some of the Red World apostles discovered this. Some of them turned to stand on the side of humans, or more accurately, on the side of the real world to avoid the consequences of the distortion of the world. Those who can discover this situation are basically the Red World Demon Kings. Red World Demon Kings are also Red World apostles, but they have extremely powerful powers, so they are called Demon Kings. However, the Red World Demon Kings are extremely powerful, and if they descend directly into the real world, it will have a greater impact on the real world. Therefore, they need a container, an agent. Fire Mist Warrior, a general term for superpowers who fight against the Red World apostles who disrupt the balance of the world. In order to prevent the expansion of world distortion, they decide to fight with the Red World Demon King and sign a contract with him, dedicating their past and future existence to the Demon King, and serving as a container and agent of the Demon King in the real world. When the Fire Mist Warrior signs a contract with the Red World Demon King, his body will stop growing and become immortal. Fight with the superpowers obtained from the Demon King in his body. The Red World Apostles and the Fire Mist Warriors are basically hostile. The Fire Mist Warriors will destroy the rampant Red World Apostles, and the Red World Apostles will try their best to avoid conflicts with the Fire Mist Warriors. Therefore, the Torch was created. It is a substitute made of the Red World Apostles remaining in existence after their power of existence was taken away. Since the world will be distorted at the moment of extinction, in order to avoid being noticed by the Fire Mist Warriors, the Red World Apostles have to make people like that to reflect the current situation of the world and balance the impact of existence and disappearance on the world. I am such a torch now. It's really interesting. P.S. As for the clone, simply put, I feel that being invincible is not fun anymore, so I made it a little weaker. Chapter 589, The Slayer of Flaming Eyes. The large doll in front of him was the so-called Phosphorus. The subordinates of the Red World Apostle did not have the strength of the Red World Apostle, which meant minions. However, although they were just minions, they were also a strong enemy for the Qin people now. His eyes swept across the system. Apart from the introduction that was like the homework write a letter to yourself assigned by the teacher to the elementary school students, there was no power seed mentioned in the introduction. The system had no function. Something was wrong. However, no matter how wrong it was not so important at the moment. The most important thing at the moment was how to get out of trouble. He could not think of any means to defeat this Phosphorus. The only thing he could do was the treasure in his body. It was different from the concept of treasure in the Type Moon world, and was closer to the concept of treasure in the general concept. In short, it was a prop that caused various miraculous phenomena. Most of the treasures were props driven by the law of freedom and the power of existence. If the Red World Apostle was likened to a magician, then the law of freedom was magic, and the treasure was the magic prop made by the magician, ranging from precious to ordinary, with various levels. The torch that carries the treasure is called Mystis. In other words, Qin Ren, who is a torch, has a treasure in his body. The means to break through the situation without relying on the outside world is the so-called treasure in his body. Relying on the combat knowledge accumulated by exchanging the skills of heroes such as Renukten, Ramas, and Nasus, Qin Ren's consciousness sank into his body after dodging the attack of the big-headed doll like Phosphorus again. Is this the power of existence? In Qin Ren's perception, there is a ball of fire burning inside his body. It is not a real flame, but a power in the shape of a flame. To be more precise, it is a residual power like dregs. There is indeed a subtle similarity with the feeling of vitality, and inside this power is a palm-sized glass regular dodecahedron. This is probably the so-called treasure. However, the most important question is that when the consciousness continues to go deeper, holding understanding the function of this treasure and going deep into the palm-sized glass dodecahedron, he found something that he is so familiar with that he can't be more familiar. It was a copper-yellow ring. In the center of the ring was triangular metal piece that resembled a pyramid. In the lower half of the ring, 5 spikes were hanging down. There was no doubt that this was the Millennium Wisdom Wheel. But the question was, why was the Millennium Wisdom Wheel here? The Millennium Wisdom Wheel was one of the Millennium artifacts and one of the important props to unlock the seal and complete the transformation. In an instant, the memories in his mind were untangled and compounded, and all the things related to the Millennium artifact came together. So that's it. But when he just got the answer, the attack of phosphorus came again. Qin Ren, who had been in a short stagnation because of the discovery of the existence of the Millennium Wisdom Wheel, suddenly woke up. At this critical moment, he tried his best to dodge to the side. Boom! The electric pole beside him was suddenly knocked down, and the passerby who was standing not far from him and motionless because of the seal was suddenly knocked down, and half of the passerby's body was smashed into meat paste. Although Qin Ren dodged the attack, he was still scratched a little. The whole right hand was separated from the body. However, there was no blood splashing. The broken part of the right hand was an empty shell. The inside of the arm was empty. What bad luck! Qin Ren glanced at his torn arm without any emotion. He did not have any idea of shouting "My king's power," but turned his eyes to phosphorus. The effect of the Millennium Wisdom Wheel, a 1000-year artifact, hosting souls, injecting the soul's clone into a tangible object, detecting the location of other 1000-year artifacts, remote eavesdropping, etc. However, if his guess is correct, then the Millennium Wisdom Wheel cannot be used rashly, otherwise it will be discovered. Then use this treasure. The power that constitutes the torch penetrated into the glass object of the dodecahedron, and a faint glow appeared on the treasure. The next moment, Qin Ren's breath gradually disappeared. At this moment, with amazing weight and speed, a petite figure fell straight down and attacked the huge doll. With a scream, the giant baby Rinko's body was cut into 2 parts by the slender samurai sword from the left shoulder to the lower right. "No, don't!" the giant baby Rinko cried out at the moment of death, and tried to raise his legs and stomped hard on the enemy to resist the attack, but, really tenacious. The crisp voice of a girl, but the emotion in the voice was extremely indifferent. As the voice sounded, the white samurai sword slashed again and passed through the neck of the giant baby Rinko. The next moment, the whole body of the giant baby Rinko turned into white sparks, crackling and scattering. The girl who appeared in front of Qin Ren inserted the samurai sword in her hand into the black cloak. At this time, Qin Ren saw the girl in front of him clearly. The petite girl was less than 1.5 meters tall, with long straight black hair falling from her head to her calves. The girl's eyes swept around the surroundings, and finally, she fixed her eyes on Qin Ren. "Alistair, this is..." "Yes, it's Mistus, and it's Mistus who has activated the noble phantasm." Along with the girl's voice, a vicissitudes and steady male voice came from the ruby-like necklace hanging on the girl's chest. "This noble phantasm is..." "It's Tersra. It can open a barrier that blocks the breath within a certain range. It's a very common noble phantasm." "Yes. There are many in the outside world, but it's really rare. It can activate the noble phantasm without knowing how to use it." At this time, the girl who was talking to the necklace turned her eyes to Qin Ren, disgusting eyes. "I have never seen it before, but it seems to know me, as if I know everything about me." An inexplicable feeling of disgust. "Alistair, can I kill him? Why? But no. I can't open Mistus casually." "Don't forget the chaos that happened when Tanmu was alone." And Qin Ren was also a little speechless. Shanna of the Burning Eyes, the girl in front of her as the heroine of this work, Shanna. However, this girl did not have a name at first, only the code name Flame-Haired Burning Eyes Slayer, and the name Shanna was given by the male protagonist of this work, Humphrey. "I know." The girl glanced at Qin Ren coldly, turned around, and raised her hand. The power of existence that was dissipated in the air, with the movement of her fingers, surged in all directions. In the position of the humans who were swallowed by the phosphorus and disappeared, torches like will-o'-the-wisp appeared one by one, and then the human figures emerged, as if the erased portraits were restored by the undone erasure action, and passers-by appeared in the original place one by one, and the destroyed terrain and buildings were quickly restored. Qin Ren's torn right hand was also reattached. After doing this, the girl raised her arm high. Repairs complete. The red color covering the surrounding area faded, as if the stopped time was moving again. Without paying any more attention to Qin Ren, The girl turned around and left, and Qin Ren had no intention of chasing after her. After all, he needed to sort out his thoughts now. After taking a look at the people around him whose eyes were empty and whose presence was gradually fading, Qin Ren put his hands in his pockets and turned away. Chapter 590 I calculate myself. Well, although he said a lot of things, such as expecting the clone to rebel, and even discussed the weird things like self and ego, as a clone with the same personality and memory, he already understood the current situation. The situation on the original sign has fallen into a dangerous situation that is about to explode. If it is just a bait, there is no need to leave the same memory, not to mention putting the Millennium Wisdom Wheel on the clone. In terms of personality and memory, no one knows his own personality better than him. If he wants to create a clone that is completely separated from himself, some important memories will definitely be modified with Qin Ren's personality, and the clone will not know that he is a bait. Just like the clone in the Overlord world, the clone is also deceived. In other words, fire? The original body is ready to die. His so-called clone is a backup and a backup. The first paragraph when he woke up was indeed confusing, but he, who has the same memory and personality, immediately found that the tone of the paragraph was subtly different from his own speaking habits. Taking the doubts arising from this difference as the starting point, combined with the situation in the memory, and the biggest doubt of the Millennium Wisdom Wheel, after careful analysis, the answer came out. It's earlier than expected. No, it should be said that from the beginning, Purgatory and the others were not completely created by me. No, according to this situation, it should be from 32. Qin Ren scratched his head. So, my previous life should be called the previous life. Who is the real body of the demon god skeleton sealed in the yellow sand world? The current situation is worse than he expected before. No, Qin Ren himself has read the memories of 32 and Purgatory several times. In other words, it is not through the means of manipulating memory, but through manipulating personality, changing the personality of the yellow sand demon gods, and indirectly exerting influence through their personality. It's more difficult than I thought before. Thinking of this, Qin Ren finally understood the meaning of his original body. The clone betrays the original body does not mean that he, the clone, betrays his original body, but that his original body, as a clone, must betray the original body of the demon god remains. According to this situation, from the action of the main body splitting off several clones and sending them to various worlds, it means that the main body has confirmed one thing: I have been tampered with. The main body has been tampered with. And who tampered with it, need I say? Of course it is the real body of the demon god's corpse sealed inside the yellow sand world. After confirming this matter, confirming that the demon god's corpse can still affect the outside world, and even has consciousness, the main body will take this action, release the clones that have been prepared and set in advance to other worlds. Qin Ren touched his chin. Fortunately, he was not stupid enough to directly believe the words in the introduction when there were so many clues and loopholes. However, since this has been done, it means that the main body has also modified its own memory, right? The self here does not refer to Qin Ren who is in the world of Shakugan no Shana, but Qin Ren in the yellow sand world. If the clones sent to various worlds are a backup plan, then in order to prevent the demon god from discovering the problem, the main body should modify its own memory and completely delete this backup plan from its memory. So, his existence is unknown to the original body now. But forget about this plan. Qin Ren shook his head. I don't know if the mastermind can negotiate successfully. I don't know if the mastermind can get the clues left in the overload world. The mastermind who sealed the corpse of the demon god and used the seal of the yellow sand world as a means of transformation to hatch his original body, and the true body of the corpse, are undoubtedly enemies of the demon god. If it is the mastermind, it should be able to deal with the demon god, right? But the question is, can the clues left in the Overlord world be conveyed to the mastermind, or correctly conveyed to the mastermind? If not, it means that they need these clones to take on the task of conveying information. Let the clone take on the task of rescuing the original body. Qin Ren scratched his head and turned his eyes to the surroundings. How should I find the mastermind? Although he knew that his existence must be manipulated by a mastermind, and he also got some indirect evidence, but he never had any direct evidence, nor did he get any way to communicate with the other party. In this case, the choice of means is to cast a wide net, arrange a large number of clones, and there will always be a clone that can contact the mastermind behind the scenes. However, the most important thing is that although his clone is sent by the main body to seek help, he cannot guarantee that other clones can also find this problem. The most important reason why he can find the problem is the existence of the Millennium Wisdom Wheel. It can be said that the Millennium Wisdom Wheel is the most important opportunity for him to find the problem. However, how many Millennium Artifacts are there? Moreover, the Millennium Artifacts are important props for completing the transformation. No, it should be called the unlocking of the remains of the demon god, and they will inevitably be valued by the main body. The main body cannot get all the Millennium Artifacts out. Maybe he is the only one, the only clone who recognizes this, the only hope. Wow, the responsibility has become heavy all of a sudden. In other words, he has to take on this responsibility. And Qin Ren's consciousness once again sneaked into the treasure Tersra, implicated in the Millennium Wisdom Wheel. If he is not mistaken, his memory and personality are bound to the Millennium Wisdom Wheel. Once the Millennium Wheel of Wisdom is in trouble, he, as the clone, will definitely be in trouble as well. Oh my god, even the clone is calculating like this. Are you still a human being? Qin Ren couldn't help but pat his forehead. My original body, since you have calculated me like this, don't say that you didn't leave me anything except memories. Qin Ren's consciousness wandered on the Millennium Wheel of Wisdom, looking for the golden finger left for him by the original body. With the memory and personality of the original body that has gradually become dark and sinister over the past few hundred years, Qin Ren is still confident that he can grow up, but without the external golden finger, it is hard to say how fast he can grow. It is hard to say whether he can complete the task given by the original body. While thinking, Qin Ren's consciousness wandered on the Millennium Wheel of Wisdom, and finally, his consciousness was fixed in the center of the triangular metal piece. Then, a prompt popped up. Chapter 591 Mirror Sand. Mirror Sand. You can convert parts of yourself into sand for remote control. Mirror Sand can record the effects of the target to a certain extent and reproject them. Then, that's it. Yes, that's it. Apart from this skill, there are no other skills. The sand that lingers around the Millennium Wheel of Wisdom, like a phantom, like a mirror fragment, and like a fragment of a book page, is the source of this power. If I'm not mistaken, this should be the power fragment of the mirror demon god Dantalon. However, unlike before, this power does not have any sense of evil, completely cleared the evil attribute. The evil attribute is the culprit that the remains of the demon god can penetrate and indirectly affect him. Mirror Sand. This skill. Qin Ren raised his right hand, and the torch surging in his body, the flame formed by the weak power of existence, swayed gently, separated a little, and turned into a grain of phantom sand, which flowed out of his body with Qin Ren's will and swayed around him. It feels like I just arrived in the world of magic forbidden. Qin Ren couldn't help but sigh. When he first arrived at the magical index world, he felt the same as when he first discovered that he could control the gravel. But now, he is no longer the Izir Qin of that time. The characteristics of the power of existence are similar to flames. The gravel he controlled, formed by the power of existence, looked like scattered sparks in the air. The gravel that surged in the air like sparks seemed to be burning, lingering with a fiery red record and map. The power of existence of the Red World Demon King, Alistair, the heavenly tribulation fire Alistair. That flame is the fiery red of Red Lotus. Qin Ren felt it carefully, and the effect of mapping the characteristics of Alistair's flame increased its lethality a little, but it was only a little. As a mistus, as a torch, his current strength was not strong. In addition, he had just used the treasure Tersra to hide his breath, and there was less than half of the torch in his body. According to the normal consumption rate, it will burn out in another day. It won't do if it only has one day to live. The Millennium Wisdom Wheel relies on the ability of soul entrustment to attach to this treasure Tersra. Once the power of existence is exhausted, this Tersra will randomly transfer to the next torch. This random transfer function is realized through the law of freedom inside Tersra. Qin Ren, whose consciousness has infiltrated Tersra, has already noticed this. However, he has not learned the law of freedom, and does not know how the function is realized, and does not know how to interfere with the function of the law of freedom. His consciousness is fixed on the Millennium Wisdom Wheel, and the ability mirror sand formed by the power fragments of the demon god Dantalon is also fixed on the Millennium Wisdom Wheel. It seems that there is no effect after the transfer, but the problem is that there is no power on the Millennium Wisdom Wheel that can be consumed as his skills. In other words, once Tersra is seized and separated from the torch, he will have no ability to resist. What he needs to do now is to replenish, absorb the power of existence to make himself stronger. Qin Ren turned his head slightly and shifted his sight to the torch that was walking in the same direction as him. Let's start with the torch. The impact of swallowing a living person directly is too great. If there is a chance, look for the male protagonist. The male protagonist of Shakugan no Shana, Yuji Sake, is also a Mistis, but compared to the common T-Slith that can be seen everywhere, Yuji Sakai has a much stronger treasure. 0 hour lost. Every midnight, that is, 0 o'clock, it can restore all the existence power consumed in the day. It is much stronger than Tersala. Now, it's time to start. Be careful, be careful. Now he doesn't have a resurrection armor. On the other side, the contractor of Tanarang Jiuo, the slayer of Yanfa Shakugan, who just left, the girl, was asking the pendant on her chest in a puzzled tone. Alistair, why can the torch move in the seal? The seal is a powerful free method, which is performed by the Red World and the Fire Mist Warriors to isolate the inner and outer space. If the power of existence does not reach a certain level, it is impossible to sense the existence of the seal, and it will be frozen along with other things in the seal, and will be still in the seal, losing the ability to move independently, all consciousness, including perception. Only when the power of existence is strong enough to a certain level, or has other free laws that cannot be frozen by the seal, can it move in the free law. Because he is Mistis. Alistair's vicissitudes and steady voice sounded. I know, the girl responded, but I didn't see the free law used to move in the seal. Prohibition. The prohibition of the treasure. Alistair's concise answer sounded. A kind of free law dedicated to Mistis. This kind of free law was set in Mistis by the creator of Mistis to protect the treasure in Mistis' body from being taken away casually. But that's Tersala, right? Does it need to be specially protected by prohibition, or is it a high-level prohibition? The girl questioned. The strength of the taboo is unlimited. It basically depends on the will and skills of the master who sets the law of freedom. Excellent and powerful taboos can make Mistis active in the seal. However, let alone powerful taboos, even simple taboos are very complicated to set up, so basically, taboos are only used when sealing high-risk combat treasures. Does a treasure like Tersala need taboos? It's hard to imagine. Noble phantasms are props that cause various miraculous phenomena. There are not many in total, but there is no doubt that they are driven by the law of freedom and the power of existence. Their effects are different, and therefore there are various differences. The effect of Tersala is to unfold a barrier of a certain range and hide a breath. It is not dangerous. Moreover, among various treasures, it is the most numerous and can be said to be the least rare and least dangerous. Does such a treasure need to be specially banned? Although she does not know how to use any law of freedom except for sealing, Wilhelmina has taught her this knowledge. The girl's heart was full of doubts. Because of his words, Alistair also became confused. However, at this moment, a seal unfolded in the girl's perception. Alistair. Yes, it's Faragni or his phosphorus. After a brief conversation, the girl moved quickly. Chapter 592, Bone Collector Rami. Well, that should be called Fengju. Feeling the mirror sand that returned to his body with the power of existence plundered from a torch that was about to disappear, Qin Ren raised his head and looked into the distance. The gradually increasing power of existence allowed him to vaguely see the hemispherical cover formed by the Fengju. The dark red hemispherical cover was also blurry in his eyes. It was still very weak. Qin Ren felt the power of existence he had plundered. In order to continue to disguise himself as a torch, he compressed the plundered power of existence into the interior of Tersra. The total amount is probably the power of existence possessed by two normal people. It's already very fast. The power of existence possessed by a normal torch is 1% of that of a normal person. The power of existence of ordinary people will not be lost. The power of existence is the original power of this world. However, the torch is a temporary prop used by the fire mist warrior to slow down the impact on the world caused by the sudden disappearance of the power of existence. The Red World Apostle will also set it up to avoid being discovered by the fire mist warrior when swallowing. The existence of the torch is an artificial buffer, not a natural one. The existence power of a normal person will not be lost, but the torch will disappear naturally over time. In terms of quantity, the amount of the existence power of the torch is much less than that of an ordinary person, but it will not be as exaggerated as 1,000th or 1/10,000th. However, even if it is 1%, it is still a lot. In 2 or 3 hours, Qin Ren relied on collecting the torches that were about to disappear to replenish his existence power to a relatively sufficient level. However, in the process of collecting, he found a problem. That is, there seems to be a pattern in the location of these torches. Pattern? Speaking of which, what timeline has the plot progressed to now? Could it be the beginning? Qin Ren touched his chin. The part where the pervert who likes puppets launched the devouring the city method, while continuing to compress the existence power into the torch and into Tersra. Qin Ren, who was thinking, suddenly stopped. In front of him, a thin old man in a retro suit appeared. He looked like an English gentleman, wearing a top hat and a cane in his hand, not an ordinary person. And this image. Bone collector, Lamy. Well, young man, it seems that you are not only not an ordinary torch, but also not an ordinary mistress. The old gentleman raised his hat slightly and spoke in the vicissitudes of life and gentle tone. His eyes were full of exploration, but there was no aggression. Qin Ren, who looked like a young man, had a slight heartbeat. Although he had hundreds of years of experience, which gave him a strong psychological quality, he would be nervous even if he knew that he was weak now and that he was facing a powerful Red World Apostle who he could not resist. After all, once he died, it was over. However, if it was Lamy, the bone collector, the memory of the work Shakugan no Shina emerged in Qin Ren's mind. Bone collector Lamy, or Spiral Organ Renancy, is a harmless faction among the Red World Apostles. He does not attack the living to devour the power of the living, but picks up garbage and corpses. His target is the torch set by the Fire Mist Warrior and the Red World Apostle. He took away the torches that were about to burn out and disappear. Looking at Qin Ren, the Red World Apostle with the appearance of an old gentleman, he said, I was planning to come here after collecting the torches on the other side, but there are no more. Bone collector Lamy narrowed his eyes slightly. Mistis who absorbs other torches in order not to disappear? Tersala should not have this function. It's just like phosphorus. Hearing the other party's words, Qin Ren couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He picked up the torches that were about to dissipate in order to avoid being discovered by the Fire Mist Warriors and the Red World Apostles. However, his actions collided with those of the bone collector Lamy. Others may not notice, but Lamy, who did the same thing, would inevitably discover his actions. In a sense, this was inevitable. Moreover, the bone collector Lamy was just the other party's code name, or disguise. His true identity is Spiral Organ Lotus Nancy, one of the strongest free writers in the Red World and one of the strongest free masters. It can be said that, apart from the Red World demon god like the sacrifice snake, no one is more familiar with various free methods and treasures than the other party. How could he run into the bone collector Lamy? In addition to the big-headed doll-like phosphorus that appeared at the beginning, there is also Shanna. Is it the plot at the beginning, the plot of perverted puppet control and swallowing the city? Although the bone collector Lamy will not do anything to others, even if it is a torch, Lamy will not collect it if it is not about to disappear. But nothing is absolute. If the other party suddenly has an idea and does it, it will be bad. It has been discovered by the other party, and it is not okay to say nothing. I don't want to disappear, and I don't want others to disappear, but there is no way. Do you want to destroy me? A torch that actively absorbs the power of other torches is already special enough, and Qin Ren doesn't want to show more special features. Of course not. The old gentleman, still squinting his eyes, stared at Qin Ren and answered. The torch boy in front of him is very strange, but because of the strangeness, He doesn't want to explore. He just wanted to quietly collect enough power of existence, activate the law of freedom, and repair the thing. He didn't want to be involved in anything. The distribution of torches in this city is strange. It seems that some law of freedom is being prepared, but he has not yet confirmed every strange place, and he is not sure what law of freedom is. But there is no doubt that other Red World apostles are preparing something here. After collecting some more power of existence, he is ready to leave here. Then, young man, I will see you again if there is a chance. Leaning on a cane, the bone collector Laimi walked past Qin Ren with seemingly slow steps and left the street. It was really thrilling. Even though he knew the other party's personality and way of action, Qin Ren, who was still sweating, breathed a sigh of relief. So, what should he do next? If it is the plot at the beginning, then you can go and see the male protagonist Yuji Sakai. Yuji Sakai's 0 hour lost is a good thing, but it is also very dangerous. There are also John and Tyrant hidden in the 0 hour lost child. According to the original plot, in the future, Yuji Sakai, who holds the 0 hour lost child, will become the carrier of the ritual snake of one of the 3 Red World demons, and fall in love and hate with Shanna, the contractor of another Red World demon Alistair. It is a good thing, but it is also very dangerous. But it will be much safer. In other places, it is very likely to be attacked by other Red World apostles, but with Shanna and the male protagonist, it will be safer. Moreover, most of the events happened around these two people. If he wants to wait for an opportunity to act, he has to watch the actions of these two people and act accordingly. Chapter 593 Sakai Yuji, Municipal Misaki High School, Class 2, Grade 1. Like most classes, the classroom, which was bustling and noisy before the morning class, became quiet because of the teacher's arrival. Yuji Sakai sat up straight and glanced at the girl next to him, Enishi Hirai. He didn't have a girlfriend at the moment. Enishi Hirai from the next table often came to chat with him, but her goal was to find someone to teach her lessons, so there was no possibility of further development. Yuji Sakai was not in a hurry to find a girlfriend, although he said that, he still had a little good impression of Enishi Hirai. As always, he looked away before the other party noticed him, as if he had just glanced at him casually, and Yuji Sakai's eyes turned to the podium. The homeroom teacher who came to the podium at some point knocked on the podium table and signaled everyone to be quiet. Okay, there's a new student today. Although he had heard of this line appearing in other classes, it was the first time that Yuji Sakai had personally experienced a transfer student coming to his class. He sat up straight and cast his curious eyes to the side of the podium table like everyone else. Okay, come in. Following the urging of the homeroom teacher, a boy who looked inconspicuous came in. He was not like the plot in the comics. He was not a beautiful girl with blonde or silver hair, nor was he a child returning from his home country. The ordinary transfer student wrote his name on the blackboard, and then said in an accent that was no different from other people in Misaki City, "I am Takahashi Yashichiro, please give me your guidance." There was nothing special, just an ordinary self-introduction. "Okay, Takahashi, your seat. Just sit next to Sato." "Okay, no problem, teacher." Following the voice of the homeroom teacher, Yuji Sakai and the others in the class turned their eyes to the back, to the seat next to Kusaku Sato. So was the table moved in the morning because of this? Yuji Sakai's heart still had some fluctuations. After all, Sato was mentioned. In his impression, Kusaku Sato was not a person who was easy to get along with. Even if he took the initiative to say hello, he would only get a cold face. The only person who had a good relationship with him was Tanaka. With this thought in mind, Yuji Sakai and other classmates watched Takahashi walk to his seat and sit down. The man did not seem to be an outgoing person and did not take the initiative to greet Sato. There was nothing special. It is already mid-April. At this time, it is not easy to join any small circle now that interpersonal relationships have been formed. Should I go and say hello with Kai after class? This thought came to the enthusiastic Yuji Sakai's mind. Okay, next, class. Stand up. Takahashi Yashichiro, or Qin Ren, silently swept his eyes over Yuji Sakai's position. While collecting torches, Qin Ren, who had been investigating for a day, finally found the high school where Yuji Sakai was, and also found the location of his home through tracking, and moved near his home. If the target is a woman, this behavior is called a pervert, right? Qin Ren pondered. As for the name Takahashi Yashichiro, the name of the author of Shakugan no Shana, the original name of this body is Ishigami Yasuburo, not Takahashi Yashichiro. He transferred here with this name purely out of his bad taste. He only needs to deal with the staff in charge of transfer matters in the school. But there is no problem. For Qin Ren, operating the memory of an ordinary person is as simple as it can be. In this way, Qin Ren transferred to this high school as a transfer student and came to the vicinity of Sakayuji. However, at this time, Sakayuji is already a torch. According to Qin Ren's perception, he did not use the power of existence to release perception to Sakayuji. According to the original plot, Sakayuji is already the Mississippi of the lost child at 0 time, and the person sitting in the position of Hirayuji is not Shana. That is to say, Shana and Sakayuji have not met at this time. Although Qin Ren's target is him, he can't be exposed now. Qin Ren silently compressed the power of existence collected from various places in the past 3 days. A total of 10 people. It's really inefficient to collect the power of existence by picking up torches, Qin Ren muttered in his heart. But he couldn't continue. If Yuji Sakai didn't meet Shana, then the plot of Hunter Faragne's the City plan would not end. Although he didn't remember the details of Hunter Faragne's the City, he still remembered that relying on torches to arrange the method of freedom. If he swallowed torches at will, he would be discovered by Hunter Faragne. Knowing this, he basically shot and moved to another place, swallowing only a few dozen torches in one place. Although this made the progress of accumulating the power of existence a little slow, it also made him not encounter trouble in the past few days. Neither Faragne himself nor his phosphorus came to trouble Qin Ren. If he wanted to trouble, he should have found Lamy first. But the bone collector Lamy is the strongest master of freedom. Even if he didn't see through it completely, he should have noticed the abnormality of the torch position. Qin Ren didn't use Lamy as a shield target, and he didn't think that everything would be fine if he just put the blame on Lamy. Qin Ren silently compressed his power of existence, maintained the appearance of a torch, and thought about the next plan. Even the teacher's voice that said the get out of class was over with the ringing of the bell did not interrupt his thoughts. But that, Takahashi classmate. Takahashi, oh, it's me. Qin Ren opened his eyes, raised his head, and looked at the person who came, Yuji Sake, with a reserved smile on his face, and another male student wearing glasses. Hello, my name is Yuji Sake, this guy is Ike Hayato. After Yuji Sake, who seemed very enthusiastic, introduced himself, he introduced his friends. I'm Ike Hayato, and I'm also the class monitor of Class 2, Grade 1. Takahashi classmate, please feel free to tell me if you need any help. Compared to Yuji Sake, the bespectacled man was more talkative and brought up the topic from another direction. Takahashi classmate, where did you transfer from? Qin Ren was a little speechless. He came to this class just to get close to Sakayuji, but he only wanted to get close to him, not to get close to him. After all, if you join the protagonist group, some things are not easy to do. But if you build a good relationship, you can use it later, whether as a thug or a pawn. With a plan that was quickly formed, Qin Ren smiled at the two of them. I'm from. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 594. The story begins. On the third day after Qin Ren transferred to Misaki High School as Takahashi. Takahashi, do you live in the commercial district? After school, Yuji Sake, who was heading to the commercial district with Ike Hayato to buy music CDs and read comics, discovered Qin Ren. Qin Ren calmly put the power of existence he had just obtained into his own torch, pressed it into the treasure tessera to store it, and showed a bit of surprise on his face. No, I live in Ogawa town. I just went to the commercial district to see if there is anything I can buy. Acting like an ordinary person, Qin Ren discussed ordinary people's topics in an ordinary tone, Sakai and Ike, are you going shopping too? No, I'm going to tutoring. Ike Hayato raised his glasses. This guy has already thought of a goal, and his goal is to go to college. Listening to his friend's words, Yuji Sakai couldn't help but say, he's only in the first year of high school now. Oh, unlike China, most Japanese people enter the society after graduating from high school. In Japan, the meaning of taking the college entrance examination is similar to that of taking the postgraduate entrance examination in China. Qin Ren still knew this. But I didn't expect that. Takahashi, you also live in Ogawa-cho? Sakai Yuji's voice continued to sound, with a somewhat surprised tone. In the middle of Misaki City is a river called Maimanami River that flows north and south, with a Misaki Bridge in the middle. With this river as the dividing line, the east is mainly a commercial area, and the west is mainly a residential area. Misaki City High School is located in the residential area, next to the Manami River, and Sakai Yuji's home is in the residential area, about a 20-minute walk from the school, in Ogawa-cho, where a small branch of the Manami River extends. When he knew that Qin Ren also lived in Ogawa-cho, Sakai Yuji was a little surprised. Also? Do you and Kai also live in Ogawa-cho? Qin Ren pretended to be stupid, and the three of them naturally walked together and headed towards the commercial area. No, Sakai lives in Ogawa-cho. I don't live there, I live in the talkative Kai Hayato talked to Qin Ren, who he had just met, without any strangeness. Well, let's separate here, Sake, Takahashi, I'm going to cram school. When they arrived at the commercial district, Ike Hayato said goodbye to Sakai Yuji and Qin Ren. Then where are you going next, Takahashi? I'm going to buy some music CDs and read some comics. After Ike Hayato, who was always the talkative topic initiator, left, the atmosphere between Sakai Yuji and Qin Ren became a little awkward. Although Sakai Yuji was enthusiastic and kind, he was called a good guy and even a saint, but when facing someone he had just met, there were not so many topics to talk about, so he could only start with this topic. I'm going to the department store. Qin Ren certainly didn't intend to continue to act with Sakai Yuji. He still needed to collect the power of existence. Just be careful not to stay too far away from Sakai Yuji. After all, Sakai Yuji is the core of the incident. Once something happens, it will be too late to react, and it will be a waste of opportunity. If you want to be a fisherman, but don't dare to get close to the snipe, you have to keep a close eye on the clam. After that, Qin Ren and Sakai Yuji separated. He was indeed going to the department store. He needed a telescope. He didn't know how to operate the freedom method at the moment. It was not impossible to use the mirror sand transformed from the power of existence to observe directly, but it was inevitable that people would notice it. At this time, ordinary people's means were very useful. With this idea in mind, Qin Ren came to the department store and found a place where telescopes were sold. He bought a telescope under the suspicious eyes of a clerk. He dispelled the clerk's suspicion by asking which store is better for buying mountaineering equipment, and walked towards the mountaineering equipment store under the guidance of the other party with a professional smile. However, at this time, on another commercial street a few hundred meters away from the street where the department store was located, a strange totem drawn with flames, which could not be seen as text or graphics, gathered into a huge ring and extended from the ground. The crimson light froze everything. When Fengju was unfolded, Qin Ren felt the fluctuation of the power of existence. Without the idea of collecting the torches in the department store on the way, Qin Ren stood in front of the window of the department store and looked at the location of Fengju with a telescope. The scene that ordinary people can't see at all, in Qin Ren's eyes, is a blurry, huge hemispherical cover. Although Qin Ren's existence power has accumulated a lot, it is still not comparable to the Fire Mist Warrior and the Disciples, and even not as good as Phosphorus. Even the observation of Fengju can only see a vague red. Do you want to go and see? How big are the risks and benefits? Qin Ren narrowed his eyes. Sakai Yuji looked around blankly. It was just to buy a music CD, and it was clear that he met her IE classmate, and he was in a good mood. But what happened? What is the situation? He looked blankly at the red barrier that looked like a wall, and the words and totems that were floating around like flames. Magic circle? Sakai Yuji's mind often appeared in the settings of comics. However, Even if he has a certain acceptance ability, he still can't calm down in this surreal scene, especially when a huge sphere that looks like countless dolls' heads gathered together and combined appeared in his sight. Sakayuji panicked. What, am I dreaming? Under his gaze, the passers-by around him seemed to turn into huge blue fireballs, and then were sucked into the mouth of the head on the huge sphere. Passers-by disappeared one by one, whether it was the office worker who was wiping his sweat with the corner of his clothes, the high school girl who was feeding each other ice cream, or the mother who was comforting a quarrelsome child. They were all sucked into the mouth of the monster in Yuji Sakai's sight. At first, it was the size of a campfire, and soon it turned into the size of a bonfire, and then from a torch to a candlelight, and it kept shrinking. As the monster swallowed, the figure swaying in the flames gradually blurred and faded. Then, it became smaller and smaller. Yuji Sakai looked at the passers-by in confusion and fear as they were constantly being sucked in like flames. But at this moment, as if noticing his existence, the monster composed of countless doll heads suddenly turned its eyes and looked at him. Yuji Sakai was startled and fell to the ground. Then, he heard a voice. Can it move? Torch? Mischief? An unexpected surprise. The master will be happy. At this moment, a figure fell from the sky, falling from above the monster, and the long sword in his hand, like a samurai sword, slashed down. Chapter 595 Plan. From the middle, just like the scene in the comics, it was cut into two parts. Yuji Sakai stared at this surreal scene with his eyes wide open. How is it, Alistair? Hey, what happened? Hearing the question, Yuji Sakai woke up and walked towards the girl. What is this monster? However, the girl did not pay any attention to his question, and did not even move her eyes. At this time, Yuji Sakai found that the pendant on the girl's chest was slightly lit, and the next moment, an uncle's voice sounded. It's not a disciple, it's just a phosphorus. An empty shell. A black sphere as big as a fingertip was tied to a silver chain, surrounded by two golden rings, which looked like both a fine work of art and a precision instrument. The man's voice seemed to come from the pendant. What kind of structure is it? Disciple? Phosphorus? What is a disciple? What is a phosphorus? Just when he wanted to ask, a fiery red spark immediately burst out from the girl's feet, and then disappeared without a trace. On the other hand, the girl's body was like a flame, sweeping a fiery red trail through the air and rushing into the house next door. It shouldn't be his illusion. Sakayuji saw that the girl's long black hair seemed to be on fire, curling up a fiery red flame hair and shake eyes. At the same time, a voice rang out from the house the girl rushed to. Flame hair and shake eyes? Sakayuji had no time to react after receiving too much meaningless information at once. The next moment, accompanied by the surging flames, a crescent-shaped trail unfolded in the house. The raging flames easily shattered the wall. Boom! With the sound of the explosion, a baby-sized rag doll with the appearance of a little girl flew out of the wall and fell at Sakayuji's feet. Shidenzana, flame hair and shake eyes. They are indeed the fire mist warriors of the heavenly fire. Alistair, why are you here? The doll made a sound. Then, the girl called flame-haired burning eyes, holding a samurai sword that was nearly as long as her height, walked out of the crack of the shattered house and walked towards Yuji Sakai and the fallen rag doll. Alistair, this is the phosphorus, right? Yes, this is the one that was hidden in the empty shell just now. A mature and steady male voice sounded from the necklace pendant. No, my master won't. The rag doll with the appearance of a little girl kept struggling and begging for mercy. Stop hearing the begging for mercy. Yuji Sakai had this idea in his mind, but when he was about to put it into practice, the girl had already swung down her long sword. With a single hand, the girl effortlessly chopped off the rag doll's head, surrounded by a pale blue flame that was close to white. The rag doll's head and body, like the monster that was just chopped, dissipated into the air, together with countless fragmented existence forces that were like sparks in flying sand. Wait a minute, what's going on? Yuji Sakai, who couldn't understand the situation at all, continued to ask questions. The girl just turned around, and with countless fire powders surging, her flaming hair returned to long black hair. There's so much dandruff. Looking at Fengju, who was gradually disappearing, looking at Shanna, who turned around and left after setting up the torch and repairing it, and Yuji Sakai, who continued to ask Shanna questions. The Qin people who were watching silently raised their hands. "Oh, I dare not move too much." In his hand, he held a ball of existence power. The existence power of phosphorus. Qin Ren transformed his own existence power into mirror sand, and infiltrated the mirror sand into Fengju and into the battlefield between Shanna and phosphorus. The purpose was to collect the existence power of phosphorus. He wanted to capture a complete phosphorus. However, he didn't dare to move too much, and he couldn't do it. Shanna waved the Zaidenzana, that is, the knife, and released the fire of Alistair, which easily burned his mirror sand. One person's share of the power of existence, a whole person's share of the mirror sand, was burned up just because the fire passed by. This was the result of him changing the characteristics, making the mirror sand carry the characteristics of the fire, and having a certain resistance. From the results, it did not achieve any damage reduction effect at all, only the role of camouflage. The mirror sand he released was so thin, and it also carried the characteristics of the Alistair fire. There should be no problem with camouflage, right? It shouldn't be discovered, right? Qin Ren muttered in his heart. In fact, he was not sure in his heart, but judging from the current situation, the other party did not react, that is, he did not notice it. The risk is really big, but it's good to get it. Qin Ren narrowed his eyes and looked at the power of existence of the phosphorus in his hand. The best result is naturally to capture a complete phosphorus, but this is impossible. Even if it is just a phosphorus, its strength must be much stronger than his current one. He must at least accumulate the power of existence of 100 people before he can have the possibility of fighting against the phosphorus just now. It is already very good to be able to get a part of it, which exceeds the psychological expectation. As for why they wanted to capture phosphorus, to copy. Mirror sand is the power of the Duke of Mirrored Antalin, which can create mirror images, also known as copies. But mirror sand is just a fragment of power, a degraded version, and its characteristic is record and map. In simple terms, it is a copy that has been degraded several times. If you have complete power, you can copy the mirror image just by looking at it. But now, this mirror sand can't do it. If you want to record and map, you must let the mirror sand come into direct contact with the target you want to record and map. If you can get the target's existence power and absorb it, the effect will be better. This phosphorus, if I'm right, belongs to the Red World Apostle, Hunter Faragni, according to the plot. Hunter, or treasure hunter. This Red World Apostle has mastered many treasures and a lot of free methods. And what Qin Ren is most interested in is the Swallowing City, the free method that is the core of the first event in the plot. Qin Ren doesn't remember what the original plot was like. After all, he hasn't studied it in detail, but with hundreds of years of experience as a demon god, at least judging from the scale, it's no problem. If this law of freedom is activated, it can attract a large amount of existence power. If this amount of existence power can be absorbed by him, Qin Ren narrowed his eyes and looked at the fireball in his hand. Phosphorus is a servant created by the Red World Apostle, and their existence power comes from the Master. As long as this trait is recorded and mapped, you can fish in troubled waters later. But this is not enough. Chapter 596, Hunter Faragni. The next day, after trying to use the mirror sand to project the treasure Tersra several times, Qin Ren came to the school. Well, although I can't understand the meaning of the specific totem text, I can achieve the effect by copying it completely, Qin Ren said to himself while walking. Next, try to split the sentences of the free law and see which sentence can achieve what function. Qin Ren naturally has a lot of ideas about the free law and the treasure. For example, a simple free law like setting a torch, or a complex but commonly used free law like sealing, or a free law like a ban, which seals the treasure into the torch and then seals it with a ban. Qin Ren has many ways to make trouble. If he learns the free law, these ideas will be possible. However, although there is also a free law inside Tersra, he has no good ideas for this kind of free law at present. Set up a few hiding places. Tersra's treasure has great limitations. Using this treasure, the reading time is a little long. Even if he uses it as a treasure, Mystis, it takes about 6 or 7 seconds. Moreover, After using this treasure, you need to keep it stable. The slightest fluctuation of the treasure itself will break the concealment barrier. If it is used by an ordinary person, it may break after taking a step. Even Qin people, who are used to controlling gravel and fine operation, can only take a walk when they want to use tersra. At most, they can walk at a normal pace. They can't do large movements such as jumping. If you want to say what the use of this treasure is, it really only has the function of setting up hiding points. Well, then set up a few more action points for hiding. Put one at home, put a few around Sakayuji's house, and put them in the school and on the way to school. Set up hiding points with the places that Sakayuji often goes to as the focus, and hide in them if something goes wrong. Well, this should be able to maximize the use. However, it takes a lot of existence power to create a tersra. A tersra that can unfold a concealment barrier of about 10 square meters requires nearly 2 people's existence power. Now, he can map the characteristics of the existence power obtained from phosphorus. He can disguise himself as Faragni or his phosphorus at any time and start to act. However, Faragni cannot really succeed. Although he did not know the details of the city-devouring method, the scale was so large that the impact must be great. If other fire mist warriors were attracted, his next action would not be so easy to carry out. Just wait until Shanna and Faragni start fighting, and take the opportunity to take a few treasures from him. Touching his chin, Qin Ren began to plan in his mind. At this time, Qin Ren suddenly raised his head and looked to the left and back. Is that Yuji Sakai? The other one is Yu Hirai. Did he really turn into a torch? A few hundred meters behind him, on the wall of the courtyard by the road, an inconspicuous bird was watching the two humans passing by. This bird is made up of Qin Ren's mirror sand. Although it looks like a bird, it is actually a part of Qin Ren. Moreover, because it needs to be used as eyes, these mirror sands are more closely connected to Qin Ren himself than the mirror sands used as tools. If this bird is destroyed, Qin Ren will feel pain as if his eyes were hurt. Qin Ren is so familiar with this trick. Before, when he exchanged any skill from the system, he would get the memory of how to use it and how to create it. Among the various skills, there is no shortage of skills for observation. The inheritance of Shurima and the Eye of Sand. Although he could not use the skills of the inheritance of Shurima or the Eye of Sand at all because there was no yellow sand world and no system support, he still had the memory of the skills to achieve the skills. Combined with the incomplete method of making phosphorus, after a dozen or so failures, he completed this method. This bird is used to monitor. No, observed Yuji Sakai, it is no different from the original plot. After becoming Mistis, Yuji Sakai personally experienced the seal and saw the fire fog warriors fighting with phosphorus. He did not gradually lose the perception of the torch like ordinary people, but deeply remembered that Hirai and she was swallowed by phosphorus and set as a torch by Shanna. Standing next to Yuji Sakai, the girl with empty eyes and the power of existence in her body gradually disappearing, who can only last until tonight at most, is Yuji Hirai. Yuji Sakai, a good man, naturally did not give up caring about this girl who he liked very much. Although he knew that she was already a torch, he kept talking to her, trying to do something for her before she completely disappeared. Really, Qin Ren observed all this in silence. It was not a mockery. For such a kind person, Qin Ren was not malicious enough to mock the other party because his kindness was useless. After a little thought, Qin Ren slowed down his pace slightly. At the same time, on the other side, the top floor of an abandoned high-rise building. In the center of this floor, a huge ornament like a sand table was placed on the ground. Treasure, glass altar. In the past, a red world demon king who liked to control humans made a treasure to supervise the city he built. It can be used to observe human activities and the flow of power of existence in a specific area. Although it cannot be used to observe red world apostles, it can be used for more subtle observations of the law of freedom. After the red world demon king disappeared, this treasure passed through many hands and was finally seized by him, a treasure hunter. The glass jar showed the architectural scene of Misaki City. On the streets of the buildings, torches were swaying. Faragni looked at the glass jar, holding a tattered rag doll with a doting expression and gentle movements. Rami, is it really Rami? He only knows how to pick up torches that are about to disappear. As he said this, Ferragni suddenly turned into a mournful expression, looking at the miserable state of his beloved rag doll. Ah, it's too much. The Firefog warriors are always so cruel, my dear Marianne. Hearing his words, the rag doll like phosphorus squirmed the corners of its mouth with silk threads intertwined and apologized. Master, I'm really sorry. You, don't apologize, Marianne. It's my fault. I shouldn't have sent you out. I really didn't expect that it would be Tanarang Jiuo and his Firefog warriors who showed up and caused you such serious injuries. Ferragni's face showed an unusually gentle smile, and he blew a breath at the rag doll as if treating a lover. The huge power of existence poured into the body of the rag doll, and in the blink of an eye, the rag doll returned to its perfect state. Chapter 597 Becoming a Fire Mist Warrior. That afternoon, Qin Ren accompanied Yujisake, Ikayato, and Hiraienishi to the arcade in front of the commercial district station. And the reason I almost forgot that people who know and have contacted the Red World Apostles will not forget or ignore someone because of the disappearance of the power of existence. Qin Ren looked at Yujisake in front of him. In addition, because of the power of John, the original owner of the Zero-Time Lost Child, who was hidden in the Zero-Time Lost Child, Yujisake has a strong sensing ability, and the fact that Qin Ren is a torch was also discovered by Yujisake. In the animation plot, Hiraienishi became a torch. Yujisake noticed that Hiraienishi liked his gay friend Ikayato. In order to fulfill her last wish, he specially called Ikayato and Hiraienishi to play together. It is probably for this reason that this good old man called him to play together. Ah, you two, you are showing goodwill like this, but it's hard for me to attack you. However, the reason why he can't take action is not just because of this. Alistair, the two Mistis are gathered together, and there is a torch. The girl, who is wearing the treasure yoga in the form of a coat, has not yet been named Shanna, and is called the Fire Mist Warrior with flaming hair and burning eyes. Even Alistair simply calls her you. She is observing Sakayoji and Qin Ren from a distance. Well, one is Tersra, who has set up a high-level taboo for some reason, and the other is Mistis, who has also set up a high-level taboo. For the hunter Ferragni, they are good baits. The voice of Alistair came from the pendant. Even if it's not Ferragni, the apostles will have some ideas when they see two Mistis who have set up high-level taboos, right? Although the taboos are set, there is no one to protect Mistis, so she still has no ability to resist. Listening to Alistair's words, the girl nodded. However, the torch has existed for a really long time. The last time I saw the torch was 6 or 7 days ago, right? The girl's eyes were fixed on Qin Ren. Does Tersra have the effect of prolonging the existence of the torch? Generally speaking, the existence time of a torch will not be too long. The longest existence time she has seen is about 10 days. I don't know. Alistair was also a little confused. My impression is that Tersra should not have this function. Could it be that because of its ability to extend the existence of the torch, this Tersra was set up with a ban? Alistair made a guess. Well, it is also possible that it has the ability to absorb the power of existence. Speaking of which, the torches nearby seem to disappear faster recently. Alistair said, does Ferragni's phosphorus not even let go of the torches? The girl who was watching the actions of Yujisake and Qin Ren frowned. No, it shouldn't be phosphorus's actions. I didn't notice any distortion phenomenon, nor did I open the seal. Phosphorus deliberately avoided ordinary people and attacked the torch? This should be unlikely. Alistair denied this guess. The only one who would attack the torches is the Bone Collector Lamy. The Bone Collector Lamy? Didn't he say that he would only attack the torches that were about to disappear? The girl said, continuing to be alert. Before the torches of the two Mistis disappeared, Ferragni would definitely attack the two Mistis. Well, that's right. The distortion phenomenon I noticed was very small, and I couldn't even distinguish the specific location. The torches that disappeared were basically about to disappear. At this point, Alistair seemed to remember something. Could it be that Lamy also came to this city? Really? It's possible. Alistair continued, maybe the two Mistis are related to Lamy. Are you sure, Alistair? I can't be sure, but the guy's true identity is Spiral Organ Lotus Nancy. If the taboo was set by Lamy, it's not impossible. Alistair's vicissitudes and steady voice came out from the pendant. Spiral organ, the strongest master of freedom? When she was learning the freedom method, she had also heard Wilhelmina mention this name, but it was the first time she heard that the bone collector Lamy and the spiral organ Ren Nancy were the same person. However, she would not doubt Alistair's words. Qin Ren had no idea that he and Yuji Sakai were regarded as the works of the bone collector Lamy. However, he did think about Lamy. Tie Lamy to the chariot. The Fire Mist Warrior is a human who signs a contract with the Red World Apostles, mostly the Red World Apostles of the Demon King level, and dedicates the past, present and future, and everything to the Red World Apostles as a container. The Red World Apostles live in the bodies of the Fire Mist Warriors, but the capacity of human beings is much smaller than that of the Red World Apostles. The capacity of the Fire Mist Warrior depends on how powerful the Demon King who signed the contract is, as well as his own talent and training level. Its upper limit is everything that humans have contributed, the largest existence that may expand in time and space, the vessel called destiny. Simply put, what is the upper limit of your ability to become the strongest in the future? Even so, the Red World Demon King basically needs to sleep in the body of the Fire Mist Warrior in a semi-dormant state. The existence force that the Fire Mist Warrior can use basically comes from the Red World Demon King. At this time, it is very important how much power the Fire Mist Warrior, as a container and a funnel, can use. Moreover, after signing a contract with the Red World Apostle to become a Fire Mist Warrior, the Fire Mist Warriors can restore the consumed existence force through life activities. But there is a very important problem. That is the bone collector Lamy. This Red World Apostle is very stingy, because he only picks up torches. He is judged as harmless by most Fire Mist Warriors, but because he cannot collect the existence force in large quantities, the existence force he has is collected bit by bit. Sign a contract and lend the existence force to humans? The possibility is almost zero. Although it can be restored through life activities, it also means that Lamy can no longer continue to collect the existence force. Qin Ren remembered that Lamy's ultimate goal was to repair something, which required a terrifying existence force. It is really difficult to tie Lamy to the chariot, although his goal was not Lamy's power of existence, but his knowledge of the law of freedom. Lamy would not be able to get on his chariot if this problem could not be solved. Trouble. Is it really necessary to rely on oneself? Using Faragni's plan, Qin Ren was thinking about the follow-up plan while cooperating with Yuji Sakai's kindness, which was mainly poured on Yuuharai but still overflowed to him, as a torch. However, at this moment, a red light surged in the sky, and a circle full of totemic characters served as a boundary, covering several streets and commercial areas. Chapter 598 Fishing in Troubled Waters. A sense of disharmony ran through the body, or the feeling of time changing abnormally, which made people shudder. Everyone suddenly stopped what they were doing. The little girl who accidentally knocked over the cup, her panicked expression froze with the water in the cup. Yuji Sakai knew what was going on at this time. Sealed? His eyes swept over Aikato and Hiraienishi beside him. As expected, he was not as still as other students, and could stand in this heterogeneous world. It was mainly because of the something that the girl said was stored in her body. However, at this moment, he suddenly noticed that Qin Ren beside him could also move, and the other party showed a slightly nervous but not panicked expression. Takahashi, you too. Yuji Sakai's eyes widened. The other party could also move in the sealed state, which means that Qin Ren, although his nervousness was not fake, the expression on his face was undoubtedly a performance. Could it be that you, Sakai, are also? The expression on Qin Ren's face was not much different from that of the other party. However, at this moment, a poker card attacked Yuji Sakai and Qin Ren from all directions. Sakai, get out of the way. Qin Ren immediately pulled Sakayuji to dodge. The poker card was like a sharp blade, passing by Qin Ren and Sakayuji and directly cutting into the arcade machine next to them. With the explosion, the game machine exploded. Fragments of metal and other components flew everywhere and pierced the bodies of Kaisudo and Hiraienishi. Qin Ren and Sakayuji were also blown away by the explosion. Qin Ren deliberately adjusted his body position to allow himself and Sakayuji to avoid the fragments. When he got up again, he pulled Sakayuji's body and tried to take him away from the spot. But the first thing Sakayuji did when he got up again was not to leave. "Ike, Hirai, Takahashi, let me go." Sakayuji broke free from Qin Ren's hand and rushed directly to the two of them to check on their conditions. Kaisuto's right leg, right abdomen, and arm were covered with glass fragments from the game machine screen, and a piece was also embedded in his face. As a torch, as a remnant of humanity, Hiraiyanushi did not bleed even though the fragments pierced his body. It's really hard to take care of a good guy. Qin Ren did not stop Yuji Sakai's actions, but just sighed in his heart and made a dodging action. As for the reason, the next moment, accompanied by the flying of fire powder, the scorching flame ignited, the blazing red flame drew an arc in the air like a gymnast's colorful streamer, and the crescent formed by the flame blasted away dozens of playing cards flying out of the broken arcade. A dozen of them were directly cut into two pieces by the large sword in the center of the flame, Zidian Zana, and dissipated in the air as the power of existence. However, after being knocked away, the playing cards floating in the air increased in value again, the first, the second, then the third, the fourth. As the power of existence surged, the increasing number of cards flew towards Yuji Sakai and Qin Ren respectively. This situation made the girl holding the Zidan Zana with flaming hair and scorching eyes feel a little annoyed. Really, I have to protect two mistas who have no fighting power. At this time, Qin Ren's voice sounded, "Fire Mist Warrior, you just protect Sake, no need to protect me." Hearing the voice, the girl, who had only met Qin Ren but had never talked to him, and was inclined to protect Sake, directly waved Zidan Zana and slashed at the playing cards flying towards Sakayuji. Sakayuji, who opened his hands and used his body to protect Hayato and Hiraiyanushi after discovering that he was being attacked, saw a wave of flames surge in front of him. Countless playing cards were extinguished by the flames, and the blue-white fire of existence was swallowed by the blazing red flames. When slashing out this wave of flames, the girl's slender legs kicked, and the arcade machine crashed into the ground with a loud bang, and the girl's body flew towards the playing cards that were about to reach Qin Ren. "You, don't command me, and don't underestimate me." The left hand grasped the hilt of the knife again, moved the hilt behind the left hand, and slightly thrust forward the right shoulder. This was the posture of thrusting. Like an arrow, the pair of pupils burning with flames had seen through the core of the card's power, the playing card with the ace of spades. It was these playing cards, the core of this treasure. The tip of Zidian Zana stabbed the spade in the center of the playing card accurately and fiercely. Ah! With a scream, the ace of spades flew up diagonally. The action of the playing card had no effect on the girl who was good at fighting. With a turn of the wrist, Zidian Zana slashed from bottom to top, and a upward movement drew a fire mark on the surface of the ace of spades. As the blade drew flames, the surging flames were about to engulf the playing card. But at this moment, a ball of white and blue flames surged from another place, engulfing the ace of spades from the blazing red flames. Yan Lang missed the target and continued to rush forward, hitting a row of arcade machines. Boom! The impact of the explosion squeezed and disturbed the entire arcade. Yuji Sakai once again used his body to try to protect his two friends, but at this moment, the girl waved her left arm, and the hem of her coat stretched out, becoming a barrier to protect Yuji Sakai. The fragments hit Yili and disappeared. The girl herself faced the explosion head-on, without even raising her eyebrows, and just tilted her body to avoid the fragments. Qin Ren rolled several times in a row, raised the stool and swung it, using the stool surface to block the metal fragments that could pierce his chest. As for Yan Lang, the mirror sand that was as fine as sand and like sparks spread around him, dissipated the force at the cost of being swallowed by the flames, and dissipated in the aftermath of the fire of existence. This is the fate of passerby. Just ignore it. Comparing the treatment of Yuji Sake, Qin Ren muttered sourly. However, there are also gains. The Qin Ren, half kneeling on the ground, pressed his right hand on a poker card with the six of hearts. The surging mirror sand reflected Alistair's calamity fire and directly engulfed it. Then, the surging mirror sand rolled the shattered poker card into the torch in Qin Ren's body and pushed it into Tarsala. Alistair and the flame-haired girl did not notice his small movements. Their attention was focused on the figure condensed by the pale blue flames. How cruel, little friend. This is really an encounter that matches the dusk. You treat my regular sharp and Marianu with such rough means. For some reason, the pure white suit and the elegant man in the pure white long coat draped on his body, who was not affected by the red clouds behind him, spoke. He held a spade poker card in his left hand and a rag doll in his right hand. Let me introduce myself. My name is Faragni. The Red World Apostle in a white suit said in an elegant voice like a string instrument. It's you. The Red World Demon King who specializes in hunting down fire mist warriors. Faragni. Alistair's voice sounded. I prefer to be called a treasure hunter. This is the first time we meet face to face. I heard that you have come to this world. This is also the first time I meet your fire mist warrior, Danarang Jiuo. It seems that your fire mist warrior has a very good weapon. The man's eyes were fixed on the large sword in the girl's hand. Chapter 599 Word Game. Faragni glanced at the ace of spades in his hand. Nearly two-thirds of the plain card-shaped treasure had turned black, and nearly a quarter of it was chipped. Really? Should I say it's worthy of the heavenly fire? It actually caused so much damage to my regular sharp horn. As he spoke, Faragni moved his fingertips like an experienced magician, and the playing card disappeared in his hand. I'm sorry, my Marian, I actually let you deal with such a scary girl then. A look of pity emerged on his face, and he gently stroked the rag doll in his arms. You don't have to worry about it from now on. Only with the help of that weapon-like treasure can you use the fire mist of fire. Even if you are a contractor of the heaven and earth fire, you don't have to worry. After saying these words that made the girl's face turn gloomy, Faragni's eyes swept over Sakayuji, who was using his body to protect his friends, and Qin Ren, who was hiding on the other side, and his voice continued. The Red World Demon King has entered a tiny container like a human being, and the power he can exert is pitifully small, not to mention an unqualified container. I'll show you whether I'm unqualified or not. The young man frowned, clenched the Zaidenzana tightly, and took a stance, with fire powder rising as his long hair swayed. Alistair was unexpectedly silent for a moment, then answered in a low voice, I see. The purpose of sending Phosphorus to attack us at the beginning was to test our strength. Faragni, your hunting method is really passive. It was obvious that Faragni was right to change the subject so abruptly. However, Faragni had no intention of continuing to fight. He kept a smile on his face and did not react much to Alistair's sarcasm. He raised his left hand, and the white streamers around him blended with the swaying colorful barrier behind him, reflecting a dazzling light. The girl, who was always alert to the opponent's actions, immediately took a step towards Sakayuji and raised the Zaidenzana in her hand. However, what followed was not an attack. When everyone's eyes were attracted by the swaying clouds, Faragni's figure had disappeared without a trace. Only Qin Ren was not fooled. The mirror sand formed by the dark blue power of existence quietly surged and turned into an eyeball, which appeared outside the game hall and watched Faragni's body disappear outside the barrier of the seal. After confirming that the other party had left, Qin Ren walked out from behind the arcade and came to the side of Sakayuji and the flame-haired girl, holding the Zaidenzana. The girl, who was angry at Faragni's words just now, moved her eyes left and right, and then said, You, get out of the way, let me use the kid. The target of the words was Sakayuji and Kaisuito, whom he protected. Use? What do you mean? Sakayuji widened his eyes. I will use this person's power of existence to repair the damaged parts inside the seal. There was no hesitation in the girl's words, as if in her concept, Kaisuito was just an object. No, then use that and that. No, then this and this. No, then what do you want? If you don't repair it, everyone here will die. The girl became more and more impatient. How about using yours? The girl mocked. Although she said so, the girl's eyes were still wandering around, looking for other suitable people who could be used to repair the damage. If damage occurred in the seal, as long as the power of existence was used to repair it before the seal was lifted. After it was lifted, it would be equivalent to nothing happening. Only the person used for repair was set as a torch because of the loss of the power of existence. As for whether this mistus would agree, it was definitely not. A few days ago, he found out that he was mistus and screamed and screamed. How could he agree? However, the response was, yes, just use mine, use mine. Sakayoji's eyes lit up, without any hypocrisy, and he completely believed that this solution was feasible. And his words and expression made the girl stunned. Qin Ren just stood aside and observed silently, shaking his head in his heart. Compared with those saintly bitches who only ask others to make sacrifices but shrink back when it's their turn, the character of this male protagonist can completely beat the others. But Qin Ren couldn't help but smile and shook his head. The girl also noticed Qin Ren's action, as if she regarded Qin Ren's smile as a mockery of herself. The girl turned her head and glared at Qin Ren fiercely. Then use yours. Wait a minute, what do you two have to do with your quarrel? But, it's okay, but you have to teach me a few freedom methods. Hearing Qin Ren's words, the girl was stunned again. Although she said so, she didn't mean to do so at all. It was just an angry remark. At this time, Alistair's voice rang out in the pendant. Do you know the law of freedom? They had not talked to this mistus, but the other party did not show any special emotions about their existence. I know. Fire Mist Warrior, Red World Apostle, Law of Freedom, Noble Phantasm, Mistus, Torch. I know everything, Qin Ren said. Although what he wanted to do was contrary to the protagonist camp, now he had no power and needed protection. To join, at least on the surface, he needed to use Shanna and her group. In front of the girl, under the gaze of Alistair, Qin Ren continued, I met the bone collector Lamy, as a mistus, picking up torches and learning the law of freedom. Qin Ren was telling the truth, but he was just playing a word game. He met the bone collector Lamy, he was mistus, he picked up torches, he was learning the law of freedom. Each of these words is genuine when separated. However, when these words are said together, they will have another meaning. But this sentence, in the ears of Alistair and the girl, has another meaning. This mistus is the work of the bone collector Lamy, who taught him the law of freedom and taught him to pick up torches. So that's it. The taboo was set by Lamy. Are you Lamy's tool to collect the power of existence? Combining the previous conjectures, Alistair understood the situation, and the flame-haired girl also understood the situation. However, the law of freedom she knows is basically related to Alistair, that is, the law of freedom that borrows the power of Alistair's sight. Well, then teach me the seal first. Qin Ren smiled and proposed a condition. Chapter 600, Heavenly Tribulation Pot. Alistair. In the morning, the low-hanging clouds in the sky cast a curtain of rain on the road, making the streets that should have been brightly illuminated by the sun in the morning hazy. Looking at this curtain of rain, Qin Ren couldn't help but think of his creation, the rain demon god Sky Curtain. But now, he has understood. The rain god before becoming the demon god, the Sky Curtain with a naive and simple character, is indeed his creation. But the rain demon god is not. The rain demon god was formed under the interference of the corpse of the demon god sealed in the yellow sand world. Qin Ren even suspected that 32 was the demon god, the clone of his original body. Although he had checked 32's memory again and again, there was nothing strange at all. But now, he had understood that her birth was originally strange. He moved his wrist, and the mirror sand formed by the power of existence flowed on his fingertips, forming a small sandman. The funny sand soldier appears, holding an umbrella and looking at the small sand soldier in his hand. Qin Ren couldn't help but mutter. The next moment, the body of the little sand soldier collapsed and turned into a frog. Recording, mapping. Qin Ren's sight was fixed on a frog that he stepped on, and the aura of the sand frog in his hand gradually moved closer to that frog. Then, he threw the sand frog in his hand away and raised his right foot. Amid the sound of frogs, the two frogs jumped away in different directions. Then, Qin Ren walked towards the school. A few minutes later, he stopped on a street. In a corner of the street, a houseplate with Sakai written on it came into Qin Ren's sight. Under the eaves of a fairly ordinary single-family house, Yuji Sakai was holding a large black umbrella, standing under the eaves of his own house, and whispered to the second floor, "Shanna, it's time to go." "Wooluzai, wooluzai, wooluzai." "Don't call me by that name." Unlike the original body, Qin Ren now no longer has the yellow sand world, the original system, and the built-in simplified Chinese translation function. Shanna's 3 irritable shouts of "it's so noisy" sounded like 3 consecutive shouts in his ears. The next moment, a girl in a black cloak jumped down from the 2nd floor and landed outside the yard, in front of Qin Ren. HMPH. After looking at Qin Ren, Shanna took out an umbrella from her night hat, then turned around and left with her bag, without any hesitation from Alistair's greeting of "Hey, Jai Zaishi boy," and walked towards the school. Qin Ren tilted his head, and then asked Yuji Sakai, who walked out of the yard in confusion, "Did I offend Shanna?" Yuji Sakai smiled awkwardly. Maybe it was because of what Alistair said. Yuji Sakai looked at Qin Ren, looking at Takahashi. After the day at the game hall, the last power of Pingjing Yuan's existence dissipated, and the girl named Shanna by him from the pronunciation of the last 2 characters of Zidian Zana lived in his house to protect him. These days, Takahashi often comes to him, or Shanna, to learn the freedom method from her. However, it was not Shanna who taught Takahashi the freedom method, but Alistair. And just yesterday, Takahashi, who successfully performed the Fengju in front of Shanna and him, was evaluated by Alistair as well. "You learned much faster than Shanna." Then at this time, the girl's voice rang out. "You, what are you still standing there for?" The 2 turned their heads at the same time. Shanna was standing on the street, staring at the 2. "Faragni's target is these 2 torches. As long as we protect these 2 torches, the other party will definitely come over." Shanna successfully hypnotized herself with this sentence. Alistair responded quite straightforwardly, "Well, these 2 things need to be well protected, whether it is Yuji Sakai, the lost child of Zero Time, or the one who wants to become a master of freedom." Although it was only regarded as a tool of Lamy before, it has good talent. If it had not become a torch, its capacity as a container should be very good. Alistair's words made Shanna raise her eyebrows again, and an angry expression appeared on her face. However, although she was angry, she was actually angry with herself, because Alistair's evaluation of the torch was better than hers. She was angry at herself. In the end, it was just venting her anger. Although Shanna was very emotional, it did not mean that she was unreasonable. After taking a deep breath, Shanna asked, "Alistair, are the actions of Yuji Sakai, the lost child of Zero Time, and the torch of the Master of Freedom useful?" Although she was very dissatisfied, Shanna had to admit the speed of the torch in learning the law of freedom, and reluctantly added a prefix before the name torch, "Master of Freedom Torch." "It should be useful." The young master said a few days ago that the distribution of torches in Misaki City is very abnormal. It should be some powerful free method. Although I don't know what kind of free method it is, as long as we take action on those torches, it will definitely affect this free method. The young master's opinion is very good. Although we can't find Faragni's location, as long as we continue to take action on the torches, Faragni will definitely come out and attack us. Alistair's voice came from the pendant and entered Shanna's ears. "Is it possible that the torch of the Master of Freedom lied in order to collect the power of existence for Lamy?" Although the location of the torches is indeed very abnormal and distributed throughout the city, but it's not impossible. But for now, this statement is not wrong. Alistair's vicissitudes and steady voice sounded again. While the 2 were talking, a frog was quietly crawling in the ditch beside the road, crawling in the low water line, among the 2 people walking towards her. Qin Ren also curled up a barely perceptible smile at the corner of his mouth. When the 3 of them walked to the school together, in a high-rise building somewhere in Misaki City, the hunter Faragni, the elegant red devil in a pure white suit, frowned. In his sight, on the glass altar, the foundation of the law of freedom that he had spent a long time setting up, had a problem. Many torches disappeared. If this continues, let alone completion, the devouring city will not even be able to implement the minimum heaven and earth tribulation fire. It's really annoying. Faragni stroked the rag doll in his arms with a loving gesture, but the expression on his face was disgust. He did not think that this matter was the idea of Mistis. and naturally put the blame on the heaven and earth tribulation fire Alistair and his contractors. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.